members of council are present. I'll ask everyone to please stand for the prayer and the national anthem. Attendu que le Canada est fondé sur des principes qui reconnaissent la suprématie de Dieu et la primauté du droit, prenons un moment de réflexion personnelle. Whereas Canada is founded upon principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law, let us take a moment of personal reflection. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Thank you very much. Item 4, additions, deletions, or amendments. We have an item to add under section 10D, proclamation for Kin Day. This will be voted on separately since it wasn't part of the original consent items. Anything else to add? No? So I need a adoption agenda, motion to approve the agenda as modified. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Saucier, seconded by Conseiller Lorrain. All those in favor?
You moved to adoption of the agenda already?
Yep.
Other than, sorry.
Did you have an addition?
Well, I just wanted to make sure that, I sent an email out to ask to have things removed out of the consent items.
Yep.
So I don't know if that needed to be done here.
We'll do
Or
that
do
when
that.
when we get to that point, then we'll do one amendment to remove all those.
Okay.
Okay. So I have a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interests. Councillor Saucier?
I just wanted to say that I have no financial gain, but I am affected by the water and sewer in my neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you very much. Item 7, adoption of minutes. Regular council minutes from February 4th, 2019. Motion to approve the following minutes as presented. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Conseiller Brisson, second. Moved by Councillor Kanowski, seconded by Councillor Saucier. Questions? Councillor Saucier?
Just on the minutes, I noticed, I think that something was moved by Councillor Brisson and he was, oh, it was
Yeah,
changed?
yeah.
Okay. And then the other one was just it wasn't the Historical Society celebrating 100, it's the Horticultural Society. So I just wanted that correction.
Okay. We'll make the adjustments and I'm coming with that. Okay. Any other questions? All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Item 8, presentations, we have none. 9, delegations, we have none. Item 10, consent items. Motion that all items listed on consent items be received as presented. Item A, proclamation and raising a flag for Scouts and Girl Guides Week 2019. Item B, minutes of the Environmental Advisory Committee of November 28th, 2018, and minutes of the Township of Russell Public Library Board, December 12th, 2018. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Saucier, seconded by Conseiller Lorraine. All those in favor? Opposed?
Correction.
It's in the consent items.
Oh, for the EAC,
For the,
EAC minutes.
yeah, so you wanna separate that,
I
item?
just wanted a correction.
Okay, so we'll remove item B and we'll vote on that one separately. So just on this one, item A and C. All those in favor? All those opposed, carried. So now we'll put B on the table, so I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Conseiller Lorraine, moved by, seconded by Councillor Saucier. Questions? Councillor Saucier?
Again, it was just the, 100th anniversary is being celebrated by the Horticultural Society, not the Agricultural Society.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor of item B? All those opposed? Item B is carried. We'll now put item D on the table, which was the proclamation for Kin Canada. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Conseiller Brisson, seconded by Councillor Tarnowski. Questions? All those in favor?
Can you read it?
Okay?
Can somebody read it, maybe? Like we're gonna approve a resolution that reading the proclamation?
Yeah, well, that's why it was given ahead of time, but we can read it definitely. Whereas Kin Canada has been a vibrant, responsible, all-Canadian association of service clubs devoted to the concept of serving its communities throughout Canada since its founding in Hamilton, Ontario on February 20th, 1920. And whereas Kin Canada has been dedicated to meeting the needs of our community and has diligently sought the development and completion of timely, relevant programs to meet the needs and challenges of our ever-evolving society. And whereas Kin Canada is celebrating its 99th anniversary on February 20th, 2019, now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Russell feels that each citizen would welcome the opportunity to pause and reflect with pride on the rich heritage of accomplishment throughout the 99 years of Kinsmen, Kinet, and Kin clubs have been in existence in Canada, and with the express idea of honoring our local club, that the Council of Corporation and Township of Russell does hereby declare Wednesday, February 20th, 2019, Kinsmen and Kinets Day, the week of February 17th to 23rd, 2019, Kinsmen and Kinet Week, the celebration of Kinsmen's and Kinets in Canada, and urges all citizens to salute their local Kinsmen's and Kinets. Questions, comments? All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Move on to item 11, reports from departments and council committees. Item A, zoning bylaw amendment, report PD 04-2019. The council receives report PD 04-2019 dated February 19th, 2019, and approves the following. Recommendations of the planning department. 1, to modify the zoning bylaw for the subject property for the following from Village Core BC to Village Core Exception XX in order to increase the maximum front yard setback from 6 meters to 13.85 meters. And 2, to not recommend the reduction of the minimum width of one-way access to parking from 4 meters to 3 meters. Need a, questions, comments on this report? Councillor Lorraine and Councillor Brisson?
Yeah, I'm just trying to see where the actual recommendation from the, planning committee is. I think the planning committee had recommended both.
I would believe that be in the report. Monsieur Leduc, Madame Tremblay?
Bonsoir. Donc, yes, the planning department, the planning advisory committee is, recommendation is in the report. So it's other recommendation and as well in the planning department, advisory committee, page 22, where it says where it was recommended back then by the planning advisory committee to reduce the aisle from 4 to 3 meters.
So the committee itself is recommending 1, but the department is recommending to keep it at the current width.
Yeah, so the planning department is recommending the front yard setback from 13 to 6. But we're not recommending the aisle to be reduced from 4 to 3, but the planning advisory is recommending both applications.
Okay, follow-up question, Councillor Lorraine?
Yeah, so, and just to be clear as well, that based on just those 2 items, had they been just the 2 items on the agenda, not 3 at the planning meeting, and the third being the drive-through, those 2 items would have qualified under a minor variance, correct? And would have been dealt with that, under that process and not necessarily this process, correct?
Yeah, it could have been dealt with a minor variance.
Okay.
Yeah.
And another point that I wanted to bring up on that one as well is that the 4 to 3 meters, when this application first started, the width was at 3 meters prior to it changing last summer, when the zoning bylaw was updated. Is that correct?
Yeah, so in the old zoning bylaw, the width of the aisle was 3 meters. However, I would just like to mention there's a reason why it was changed from 3 to 4.
Right. But at the time of the application was originally put in, it was 3 meters.
When they applied, it was already at 4, sorry. So when they met initially to do the pre-consultation.
Okay,
Yeah, so they didn't apply back then. If they would have applied under the old bylaw, they wouldn't have applied a zoning
Okay.
amendment.
perfect. I'm gonna ask that this item be removed as well from the item to be voted on separately, because I'm gonna ask for an amendment so that council approves the 3 meter width versus the 4 meter width on this item.
Okay. Conseiller Brisson?
Ouais, moi, c'est savoir, quand que, là, il y a un amendement pour permettre la building d'être plus reculée du chemin pour pouvoir avoir un peu de stationnement, est-ce que c'est une loi d'ici d'avoir les bâtisses si proches, comme d'être, puis avoir le stationnement en arrière quand leur entrée est en avant, ou c'est juste ou c'est de quoi provincial?
Je pense que c'est plus qu'est-ce que nous autres ici, à table du conseil, on a mis en place avec le plan officiel du zoning bylaw, c'est ça?
Oui, à travers vous, monsieur le maire, la raison pour laquelle dans les cœurs du village, on essaie d'avoir les bâtiments, c'est pour créer ce sentiment-là d'appartenance, que les gens puissent marcher, d'avoir les bâtiments le plus proche possible de la rue. Donc, dans le village core, la distance est plus proche de la rue que dans les autres zones. Dans ce cas-là, on recommande que ce soit plus loin parce que ça suit l'enlignement des autres bâtiments existants. C'est pour ça qu'on recommande d'avoir le bâtisse plus loin. Par ailleurs, dans notre plan officiel, c'est un design guideline qu'on essaye de suivre le plus possible, que dans les village core, les bâtiments soient le plus proches possible de la rue. Donc, dans les règlements de zonage, c'est reflété la politique qu'on a dans notre plan officiel.
C'est ça que je veux savoir, parce que c'est juste au point de vue accessibilité, ou pour le comité d'accessibilité, j'ai de la misère un peu logiquement de dire, d'aller voir leur majorité, comme leur stationnement à l'arrière, quand l'entrée est en avant, parce que même s'il n'est pas, quand ils ont 1 ou 2 stationnements en avant, mais d'être obligé de descendre en arrière de la bâtisse pour descendre en avant, c'est pour ça que logiquement, quand c'est en avant, proche de ton entrée, fait plus de sens pour quelqu'un qui a un petit peu plus de misère à marcher ou avec des jeunes enfants, ces choses-là.
Madame Tremblay?
Donc, juste pour réitérer, c'est une politique qu'on a dans notre plan officiel, donc c'est pas obligatoire. C'est du cas par cas. Donc, si le terrain est trop étroit et qu'ils ne peuvent pas mettre le stationnement en arrière, ils n'ont pas besoin de faire un amendement parce que c'est juste une politique dans notre plan officiel. Puis au niveau des stationnements, bon, on essaie toujours à l'intérieur d'un plan d'implantation de s'assurer que les cases de stationnement pour personnes handicapées soient localisées le plus proche possible de l'entrée principale du bâtiment. Puis notre comité d'accessibilité est circulé aussi sur tous nos plans d'implantation. Donc
On a les commentaires
on
là-dessus.
a les commentaires. S'ils sentent qu'il y a une préoccupation, ils peuvent commenter sur le plan d'implantation qui est proposé.
Merci. Conseiller Laurent?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that the actual plan itself is gonna meet all the requirements for accessibility. And if I look back in the report, I don't remember seeing too many comments about accessibility for that plan. So I understand your concerns and whatnot, but in terms of for this specific one, it will meet all the requirements of
Yeah.
accessibility.
Perfect. Other questions? Councilor Associate?
Yeah, I'm looking at the drawing, that's a ramp in front, like going up the side there. I guess my main concern is that, like, that's commercial there, so, but my main concern again is that it fits in with the neighborhood. So I'm just wondering if the developer had put any, because there's a lot of old homes on that street, and that's possibly be part of the district.
Madame Tremblay?
So again, because we don't have that district and because there's no heritage conservation policy at this
Point. time.
point of time, we have no guidelines to be able to help the developer unless they apply under the CIP. So if they go and we grant them money under the CIP, then we would have more say about the designs to make sure that it meets the design guidelines that we have incorporated in our CIP. But at this point, we're strongly suggesting to the applicant to apply for funds under the CIP. But as per the elevation, there's no guidelines under the heritage at this point.
Thank you.
D'autres questions? Conseiller Brisson?
C'est savoir, sur le côté droit du lot, je vois qu'il y a toute une rangée d'arbres pour l'autre maison. Je sais que dans la documentation, il disait d'avoir une grande clôture de plus que 6 pieds. Est-ce que les arbres vont être dans les jambes pour la clôture? Faut-tu qu'ils coupent ces arbres-là pour pouvoir mettre la clôture? Ou si les arbres, c'est ça, juste savoir, là.
Monsieur Leduc, Madame Tremblay?
C'est encore une fois, c'est pas la question ce soir, là. C'est au niveau du développement qu'on va pouvoir revoir au niveau du site plan. Mais de ce que je peux voir, c'est que les arbres sont sur le terrain du voisin, donc techniquement, la pharmacie devra respecter le fait que les arbres doivent être conservés quand ils vont installer la clôture. De là, peut-être l'installer un peu plus dans leur ligne intérieure et non pas sur la ligne pour ne pas tuer les racines des arbres du terrain du voisin.
Parfait. D'autres questions? No. Move on to the next item. Sewer allocation, Village of Emblem, report PD 05-2019. The council receives report PD 05-2019 dated February 4, 2019, and the council allocates a requested one municipal sewer unit for the property legally described as being as Park Lot 9, Concession 6, PCLF, located at 720 Notre Dame Street in Emblem. Questions, comments, members of council? Anything bad from the administration? No, we'll move on to the next item. Item C, Building and Planning Semi-Annual Activity Report, Report PD 09-2019. The council receives activity report PD 09-2019 dated February 19, 2019. Monsieur Leduc, Madame Tremblay.
Je vais juste prendre l'occasion pour présenter un petit peu les accomplissements du département d'aménagement du territoire et du département de construction. Donc, comme vous avez pu le voir, nos réalisations se présentent un peu plus avec des chiffres que des mots. Donc, au niveau des émissions, pas des émissions, mais des permis de construction et des nouveaux projets qui sont en marche en ce moment. So we have a lot of site plans that are ongoing at this moment. So we have a lot of subdivision as well, that it's a process that it's ongoing as well. We have building permits that we, as you can see in page 94 of the report, that we've increased the number of single detached dwelling significantly since 2017. So we've issued 15 building permits more in that catégorie. Nous avons émis aussi beaucoup plus de permis au niveau des maisons semi-détachées. Donc, on a 31 maisons semi-détachées qui le surplus de l'année passée. On a aussi donc un total de 403 permis versus 394 en généralité pour toutes les catégories confondues. Donc, vous pouvez voir aussi au niveau de l'industriel, on a des permis de moins, mais comme vous le savez, on a vendu des terrains dans le parc industriel dans la dernière année beaucoup. Donc, les permis, quand on vend les terrains, les gens ont 2 ans pour appliquer pour les permis de construction. Donc, ces accomplissements-là vont se voir dans l'année 2019-2020. Donc, on voudrait aussi, dans les projets qui s'en viennent, as you know, we have the 48 hours building permit that are ongoing starting in May. So as you can see, it was really popular in the last couple of years. So what we do is for smaller permits, people could apply on a Wednesday and get the permit on Friday so they could proceed with the work on the weekend. And as well, this summer, we'll try to implement a service that will be from 5 to 7 at night. So people get that work during the day that cannot come and apply for a building permit during the day. We'll have this availability. So this is something new that we're looking for this year, to have a service for planning and building that would be after work hours from 5 to 7 or 5 to 8. So we're trying as much as possible to get our services out there for people that are having a regular job from 8 before that could not access our services, that they will be able to access our services at night.
Questions, comments? Conseiller Brisson?
Je voyais dans les projets en cours aussi, développer une politique pour les maisons modèles dans les subdivisions. Y a-t-il un problème ou c'est à propos de quoi que...
Madame Tremblay?
À travers Monsieur le maire, donc en ce moment, les développeurs, quand ils ont des plans de subdivision, ils veulent commencer à construire des maisons modèles avant que le plan de subdivision soit enregistré. Puis techniquement, on a le droit de construire une maison parce que tant aussi longtemps que le plan de subdivision n'est pas enregistré, c'est seulement un gros terrain. Donc, on n'a pas de politique définie ou écrite qui dirait que les développeurs ont le droit de construire des maisons modèles sur des, comme on appelle les dry models, ça veut dire que les services, des fois, ne sont pas installés ou les rues ne sont pas tout à fait construites, mais ils veulent commencer à mettre en marche les maisons modèles pour être capables de vendre leurs maisons. So what we're trying to, so we've communicated with the city of Ottawa, and they have a policy that states that you could have 2 model homes per builder on the same lot before the plan of subdivision is registered. So that is something that we're trying to implement because the demand is coming and we don't have anything in writing. So we're gonna put in place a policy that would be effective for all the builders and be the same for everyone at the same time. So this is.
Councillor Karnowski?
So first of all, I'd like to applaud you for considering the evening service. That's something that's come up quite a bit when we were doing our walkabout during the election. Juste une question au niveau opérationnel, est-ce que ça va rajouter des coûts au niveau d'employés, de temps d'employés?
Madame Tremblay?
Ce qu'on considère faire, c'est que les gens qui vont travailler en soirée vont prendre un après-midi de congé ou un matin de congé. Donc, au niveau opérationnel, non. Parce qu'on a déjà des gens qui font des heures ajustées selon les périodes plus occupées. Donc, ces gens-là ne travailleraient pas l'avant-midi pour être capables de travailler une journée par semaine en soirée.
Councillor Karnowski?
So I'll even increase my acknowledgement of appreciation there because so we're adding services without adding costs, which is fantastic. Thank you very much. That's great.
D'autres questions, commentaires? Quelque chose d'autre à ajouter? Non? Merci beaucoup. Madame Tremblay?
Juste au niveau des statistiques aussi, comme vous avez pu remarquer, in 2017, our total single detached dwelling were 106. And just for your information, in the last 2 months, we've issued 54 building permits, so for single. So we're already half of what we've done in a year completely. So it's moving fast and we're trying to keep up.
Councillor Soucy?
This is just me being sticky, but on number 4, is that supposed to be resubmit application? Revise and resubmit?
You're in the site plan manual? Is that
Yeah,
what you're-
in the manual on the 4th issue, it says revise and resubmit application.
Okay, I'll take it.
I think it's supposed to be resubmit.
Okay, perfect, thanks.
D'autres questions, commentaires? No? Move on to the next item. Item D, removal of part lock control report PD 11/2019. That council receives report PD 11/2019 dated February 19, 2019, and adopts a bylaw to approve the proposed application for the removal of part lock control submitted by 2035482 Ontario Inc., care of Mathieu Kennel for the parcel of land described as block 68 on plan 50M-331, being parts 1 to 7 on plan 50R-10813 and known as 345-351 Belfort Street in the village of Embrun. Questions, comments, members of council? Pretty standard stuff. Anything to add, Madame Tremblay? No? Move on. Item E, extension of draft plan of subdivision approval, report PD 12/2019. That council receives report PD 04/2019 dated February 19, 2019, and approves a 3-year extension of the draft plan of subdivisions approval for Gilles Trudeau, file number 080-S-11-004, submitted by Gilles Trudeau as requested by the applicant. Questions, comments, members of council? Conseiller Larrey, Conseiller Brisson.
Just a quick question to know, water and sewer allocations, have we already assigned those, or is this in an H holding?
Monsieur le Duc, Madame Tremblay.
So phase 2 is still as a holding.
Okay.
There's no sewer though. right? So it's just.
Okay,
And it's
sorry.
been-
Yeah, so they're on septic in that subdivision. So the phase two is, everything else that's not on the main street, so it's still holding.
Okay, so this extension is for phase two only.
Yeah, it's phase one and phase two, because phase one is not completed as well,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Conseiller Brisson?
C'est juste quand il y avait la description d'où qu'était la propriété, comme le projet, ça disait au sud du chemin Grégoire, mais le chemin Grégoire va au nord-sud. Fait que il se trouve être à l'est. Il est au nord de la route 500, puis à l'est du chemin Grégoire.
C'est ça.
C'est juste que dans la description, il était marqué comme s'il était au sud de Grégoire.
Ah, ok, on peut faire le changement.
Juste mentionné.
D'autres questions, commentaires? No? Move on to the next item. Item F, pay list. The council receives a pay list for the month of January 2019. Any questions on the pay list? Anything to add? No? Move on. Item G, finance semi-annual activity report, report FS 03-2019. The council receives activity report FS 03-2019 dated February 19th, 2019. Monsieur Godin?
Oui, merci, Monsieur le maire. Donc, bonsoir, chers membres du conseil. Donc, c'est ça par rapport au rapport comme tel. La liste des items qu'on a mentionnés n'est pas extensive. Par contre, je voulais vraiment prendre l'occasion de souligner le travail de l'équipe des finances, surtout en ce qui concerne la préparation du budget cette année. Cette année particulièrement, on a apporté plusieurs nouvelles initiatives, des nouvelles stratégies financières, le fonds d'énergie, le fonds d'infrastructure, qui a été amélioré un petit peu, puis des stratégies pour un rec complexe ou autre chose. Je voulais prendre le temps, c'est ça, de souligner le travail. Ça a eu beaucoup de travail qui est fait dans le background par l'équipe. Puis aussi de la préparation. On n'a pas encore apporté rien au conseil par rapport à ça, mais d'un plan quinquennal financier, autant opérationnel que capital. Il y a beaucoup de travail, beaucoup d'avancement qui a été fait à ce niveau-là. Puis on est excité d'apporter quelque chose au conseil prochainement. Donc c'est ça. En gros, je vraiment prendre le temps de relancer l'équipe, puis aussi extensionner ça à mes collègues à la table ici qui ont travaillé très fort sur le budget qu'on espère qu'il sera peut-être adopté plus tard aujourd'hui.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Godin. Any questions, members of council? No? On va continuer à la prochaine rapport. Item H, 2019 Interim Tax Billing Report FS 04-2019. The council receives report FS 04-2019 dated February 19, 2019 and adopts a proposed bylaw to provide for interim tax levies for the year 2019. Question, comments, members, council? This is pretty standard stuff. Yeah, Monsieur Godin, quelque chose à ajouter? No? Okay. Move on to the next item. Item I, Ontario Regulation 284/09 Budget Expenses Exclusions Report FS 05-2019. The council receives report FS 05-2019 dated February 19, 2019 and approves exclusion of amortization into the 2019 budget as prescribed by Ontario Regulation 284/09 and as shown in Schedule A. Questions, comments, members of council? Councillor Tanaski?
Juste pour M. Godin, juste confirmer. Alors, le processus qu'on fait pour comptabiliser ça, is that the same process that we use or the same amounts that we use for asset replacement values? Is it like dollar for dollar? No.
Monsieur Leduc, Monsieur Godin?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So, Councilor Chernowski, now to answer your question, asset replacement, we look more forward to what our needs are going to be, which are not necessarily going to be dollar for dollar replacement of the actual assets. For this process here, and you'll see more in details when we bring the financial statements in early May. We really look at the list of our assets and their amortization based on useful life. So those dollars resemble themselves, but they're not dollar for dollar the exact same. And when we do prepare the budget, we don't include amortization in the budget because the budget is really done on a cash basis. But the Ontario regulations do require that we report to council estimates on what those expenses represent.
D'autres questions, commentaires? Conseiller Brisson?
Juste essayer de comprendre, parce que là, ça dit que ça les exclut, les amortissements dans le rapport. Ça, puis c'est quoi que ça rapporte?
Monsieur Godin?
Oui, conseiller Brisson, donc l'amortissement n'est pas inclus dans le budget 2019, c'est ce qu'on dit ici. Donc, on a une valeur totale qu'on a calculée, puis c'est un estimé, mais d'environ, c'est plusieurs millions. Ce qu'on voit ici, c'est la dépense que vous allez voir dans les états financiers en fin d'année. Au niveau de la comptabilité, on doit rapporter ces dépenses-là. Par contre, au niveau du budget, vu que c'est vraiment sur une base de mechanical,
OK.
c'est pas quelque chose, c'est pas une sortie de fond de notre compétence, c'est vraiment juste une dépense qui est comptabilisée.
C'est pour ça que ça a été exclu, vu que c'est pas du cash.
Exactement.
OK, merci.
Mais durant le budget, quand on a le tableau de les emprunts qu'on a à payer, indirectement, ces montants-là sont inclus dans le repayment amount, c'est ça?
Oui, c'est ça. Donc, dans le fond, tout amortissement, ça a quand même été un cash flow à un moment donné. Parce que quand on a acheté l'actif, on a payé le montant complet. Sauf que la dépense est comptabilisée étalée sur sa durée de vie. Donc, c'est un petit peu ça.
D'autres questions, commentaires? No? We'll move on to the next item. Item J, Infrastructure Ontario, Loan Application Bylaw, Report FS 06-2019. That council receives report FS 06-2019 dated February 19, 2019, and adopts as presented the bylaw to authorize the loan application with Ontario Infrastructure for the mentioned project. Questions, comments, members of council? This is just to confirm, this is a resolution needed to apply for a quote. Once, but it does not mean we necessarily take Infrastructure Ontario when it comes to that time to actually give the loan amount as a payment, correct?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. So, for loan applications with Infrastructure Ontario, it's a long process, and the first step is really getting a bylaw to authorize the application in itself. These are two projects that were actually in the 2018 budget, and where we had approved that we would be financing them from a loan. But this step here is really only to make the application. Once the final costs have been tabulated and we know how much we need, at that point we're going to be obtaining some quotes from other financial institutions as well to have comparables and to make a decision on how we want to finance it.
Conseiller Brisson?
Peut-être juste moi qui n'avais pas vu les chiffres, mais je pensais que dans les chiffres, il parlait que pour l'ambulance, c'était 2 millions. Et ici, je vois 2,2 millions. Y a-t-il une raison pourquoi qu'il y a 200 000 de plus?
Monsieur Leduc, Monsieur Lodin?
Oui, plus Mr. Mayor. Donc, non, Conseil Bousson, au budget 2018, on avait bel et bien 2,2 millions.
Ok, c'est pour ça. Je pensais que j'avais vu 2 millions qui avaient arrêté. C'est bon.
And just for clarification, while the report states the yearly payment will be financed by taxation, we do have a revenue coming from this, and it will, in time, we will be making a profit with this building, correct, Mr. Lodin?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. So basically, it is a department from taxation, although it will generate some revenues to offset those costs. And you're right, over the long term, we should be making some revenues.
Good. D'autres questions, commentaires? Move on to the next item. Item K, Infrastructure Ontario Loan Application Bylaw Report FS 07-2019. That council receives report FS 07-2019 dated February 19, 2019, and adopts as presented the bylaw to authorize the loan application with Ontario Infrastructure for the mentioned project. So this is essentially the same thing, different project. Questions, comments? No. Anything to add, Mr. Godet? Move on to the next item. Item L, 2019 budget report FS 08-2019. That council receives report FS 08-2019 dated February 19th, 2019, and adopts the 2019 budget as proposed in the summary report Schedule A, which includes a 2% tax increase. And the council approves the updated 2019 user fee bylaw as presented in Schedule D. And that council approves the 2019 community grants listing as presented in Schedule F, and the new salary grid and organizational chart Schedules G and H. Questions, comments, members of council? Councilor Sosi.
Yeah, I was just, it was good to see that our pool rates were on par as well with the, what we had, but we don't have a lot in the budget for trees. For, like there was 5,000, I think, was it more than that?
Mr. Leduc.
Okay, sorry.
30,000.
30,000, okay, because I was thinking Yahoo Park alone would be a huge expense.
Yeah.
Okay, merci.
D'autres questions, commentaires? Conseiller Brisson.
Juste pour clarifier, je voyais dans le budget qu'il y avait une augmentation pour le maire de 15 000 dans le budget, mais ça n'a pas été voté officiellement encore. C'est juste mis dans le budget, mais c'est pas...
C'est ça, la direction, c'était de le mettre dans le budget. Il va y avoir une discussion, un rapport qui va venir à un point, puis si le conseil décide de donner une augmentation, ben il y aura des fonds.
Non,
Correct,
c'est-
M. Godin? M. Leduc, yeah.
That's correct, so the amounts have been there, put there just provisionally.
Yeah.
And if ever that decision is taken by council, we would have to bring back the remuneration bylaw, the council remuneration bylaw. And if I can, I just had
Mr. Leduc?
two housekeeping notes, just wanted to bring
Yep.
a couple of corrections. First of all, to the user fee bylaw. I don't know if we can bring it on the screen, but section 3.2 of the user fee bylaw, which is Schedule D. Essentially, I'll wait until something gets done. Bylaw 2019-034.
C'est dit dans la section de bylaw, c'est ça, M. Godin?
Oui.
Schedule D, user fees and charges bylaw. T'as dit 3.2?
Oui, c'est ça, donc section 4.2. Essentiellement, if we look at the second to last line, where we say sections 1 to 5, it's actually 1 to 4 because that section 5 of that schedule was amended and was removed in the previous bylaw.
Okay.
So that's just a really minor housekeeping question. And in the actual report, in the report itself, when we speak about the water rates, the water consumption rate was indicated that it was increasing by 5.6%. It's actually 6%. That was a mistake and an oversight on my part. So I just wanted to bring that forth to council that the water consumption rate is actually increased by 6%, not by 5.6%.
And that's the amount that the city of Ottawa has increased, is that correct?
We don't have confirmation yet for 2019 regarding Ottawa. They're supposed to release their rates in March. We do have some information from them regarding their rate structure. They're looking at changing the rate structure. They're going to be including a fixed rate and a consumption rate, which wasn't the case before. So at this moment in time, they've communicated to us that they expect that change to be effective April 1st. But we don't have more information than that at the moment regarding what the rate is going to be exactly, how the fixed rate is going to impact us and all that stuff. We prepared a budget based on past communication where they communicated to us that they expect a 6% increase yearly. This year might be a bit special, and once we do have that information, it's going to be shared with council this further later on this spring.
Thank you, Mr. Godin. And Monsieur Leduc, once if there's changes, we're going to obviously be having discussions with the city of Ottawa at one point again for the file on the price they charge us for water.
As Mr. Mayor, we already have been discussing this with the city of Ottawa for the last couple of years, and we were waiting for them to issue officially or launch the new rate structure. Now they have, and we were asking for exceptions, which we did not get, so therefore we'll be considering with council next steps regarding how do we challenge for those rules.
Thank you very much, Monsieur Leduc. Conseiller Lorrain.
So, I have a few things. The first one being, if we talk about that water and sewer, or water rate from Ottawa, it was reported, on the news that their rate increase recommendation was 3.3%. And when I called over there today, they did confirm. I got transferred to the department that deals with it. and they confirmed the 3.3%.
Right.
So how do we ensure that if it is only a 3.3, that if we approve a 6 tonight, it gets reduced to 3.3?
Monsieur Leduc, Monsieur Godin?
Well, what I would recommend is that, once we do have confirmation, that we could, like we said earlier, bring back to council information. Regarding the 3.3%, I'm not sure if that's strictly on the consumption rate and that there would be an additional fixed fee to that. That's still a bit unknown. And, what they did confirm to us though is that the changes will be effective, April 1st. Which means that if council would like to bring changes forward to the rate at that point in time, it wouldn't be too late to have an effective, April in our case, because the first quarter billing, which is coming out, shortly, is for, December 15th to February 15th, basically. So that's gonna give us a bit of time to adjust our rates if that's the council desire for the second billing, which will be later on in June.
So once we get confirmation on the new rate structure from the city of Ottawa, it'll come back to council, and council will be able to give direction where we wanna move forward with that at that point in time.
That's correct.
Monsieur Lang, Councilor Lang?
Yeah, so I've also already asked to have this one removed separately, as per my email from this afternoon. I have a couple other items regarding, let's go to the ice rental fees piece. And we talk about that 15% increase surcharge for the rec complex. And I see in there it's recommended at the 6.25% for 3 years. The one thing that I don't see as of yet in this is a resolution or a bylaw as to where we're putting those funds. I think the associations and the users of the facilities need to understand that those, if they're paying surcharge for use of the arenas, that money will be used for a new arena complex in the future. Not for a phase 1 pool of a complex, not for a phase 1 of, something else, but that these fees are directed specifically to a recreational complex that includes the ice pads. So I don't know if you have that. If you don't have that, then I'm gonna recommend that we remove the surcharge for now and bring it back at a later date with the bylaw so that we can assure the associations and the people that are gonna be using the facilities that this is where the money is going. Cause I've already heard concerns that this money will be pocketed and then put towards a pool. And right now, there's nothing saying anything different. So,
Monsieur Leduc?
So this budget is to authorize Mr. Mayor, Antoine say to charge these fees to residents or users as of May 1st. So it gives us time to bring a bylaw or a resolution on the council to have that adopted. I think right now we're having the fee structure put in place and approved in the budget, but certainly your request is very legitimate, and we'll bring it to council and have it reviewed. But I don't see why we should be changing it tonight unless council decides to go this way.
because it has no effect on the actual budget, because it's amounts that are being held outside of the budget. The 5% I'll understand, and that's fine. Even though we put a 5% in last year as well, putting another 5% in this year. But in terms of the additional I'll say 15%, but it's 6 1/4 spread over 3 years. That amount, because it takes effect only as of May 1st, that when the resolution comes or then the bylaw comes to as to where we're gonna allocate it, could we not just update the user fee at that time, the user fee bylaw at that time, including the surcharge? So that it's all done at once rather than approving it now without having that certainty.
Monsieur Leduc, Monsieur Godin?
Well, it's well possible. It's just
Okay.
council's choice on how they want to present the things to the
Okay.
public.
I'll make the recommendation at the time of the resolution.
So we're having a discussion. Would council like to have that see it separate at that point in time, or are they fine with it approving and then approving a direction or a policy on the increased surcharge at that point in time? Conseiller Brisson, Conseiller Ternasky?
For my personal view, I don't see any problem leaving it like this, because the numbers are already put like this with the revenue and everything, that they won't have to change anything for the budget for this. But I have no problem on a later date, especially that it's coming in use only in May, that we pass that resolution after the budget before May. But that for now, that we keep it, because since the numbers are already in.
Okay.
no problem.
Councillor Ternasky?
Councillor Brisson just kind of explained what I was gonna say. I'm good with that too, as well.
Okay. Councillor Sosi? You're okay with it? So making sure we can leave it as is and make sure that we have before the surcharges increased in May, that we have a policy put in place, presented to council and discussed and put in place by that time. Conseiller Laurent?
Well, we need to have something done a little sooner than that, only because the associations are gonna need to know as soon as possible, so that they can budget for next year. So, although we talk about a May 1st implementation, they're doing their budgeting now for next year and years forward, so if this can be done on an expedited fashion then, so that we can present them with the information as to where that money's going to, and show them that there's an actual resolution and or bylaw in place to assure them that that's where their money is going. If we wait till May, it's gonna be too late.
Councillor Ternasky?
I appreciate the timing, but I think that it's regardless, I think the percentage is still gonna be the same regardless of what happens. So in terms of planning and preparation, I think everyone's gonna be able to know right away that that amount is coming rather than maybe it's coming. So this gives more certainty in a way. My opinion.
But it doesn't tell them what it's going to. There's all the indications on where it is, but there's no finality to where it's going. And that's my biggest problem right now with it. We say it's for something, we're gonna tell them it's for something, but we got nothing to show them that it actually is going to that.
No, at that point in time, Mr. Lidzik will come back with policy down the road. Mr. Lidzik?
I think, Mr. Mayor, I was gonna say, Councilor Lorraine was looking for a resolution or a bylaw or a policy. In this case, you could modify this report to add to a paragraph and say that those particular funds will be put into a specific reserves for,
Well, I think if we have it come back as a report, because as you're suggesting, I would suggest the same thing with the pool. If we're increasing rates on the pool side, then it should go for a pool section of a future complex.
I don't disagree.
So, but I understand the reasoning, but I think at this point in time, the budget as is fine, and then we'll just come back with policy and that they'll be able to present to the organizations with the rates. Okay.
Can I ask that policy be done for the next council meeting, please? Or a resolution for the next council meeting, so that we can get it to the associations as soon as possible.
Okay, Mr. Rizzo, fine with that? Okay. Next, Councilor Larray?
Yep, so there was a couple more on the fee structures, that I discussed at the last meeting. I don't know if it's now or at the time of adoption, but, there's the dog fees. I still don't understand the increase of the $5. We're increasing 25%, and I don't understand why we're increasing. Like, what more are we getting? What more is the user getting for that extra $5 fee, other than comparing ourselves to other jurisdictions?
Great. Monsieur Leduc, Madame Bourdeau, operational cost increase year after year. When's the last time we raised that fee?
Yes, we haven't raised it in I can't say for sure, 10 years maybe. So it's, of course, we have an increase, a little bit of an increase every year with population, so, and it's at one point, we have to catch up to everything, so.
Okay, so Councilor Larrain is suggesting the $5, not to put the $5 fee increase in place. Is everybody okay with the $5 fee increase? Or would we like it to see it removed? Counselor Associate?
No, I'm okay with the $5 fee increase.
Okay. We're okay, it seems to be everybody's okay with the $5 fee, okay?
Okay,
Counselor Bennett?
next one, daycare fees. We've got $500,000 in the bank already on the daycare fees. I don't believe we have a resolution in place that tells us that we're gonna spend that money into another facility, and that we're raising rates to do that. So I'm just wondering why we're increasing, the fees.
Okay.
Cause as is, I can't support the increase to the fees.
Okay, Monsieur Le Duc, Madame Vital, in regards to the daycare fees, we always have this discussion at county level between the mayors, correct me if I'm wrong. We currently have the lowest rates in Prescott Russell. We're one of the only ones that allow part-time daycare. One of the only ones that actually allow parents to take their kids out for the summer and still have their spot in the fall, is that correct?
Thank you, Mr. Member, members of council. Yes, this is all correct. We allow a lot of perks, if you can say, to our parents, and we're proud to do it. And I understand Councilor Lorraine's concern about the reserve. The thing is, we acquired the preschool daycare, which is, it's not as feasible service as the before and after school daycare. So we have to be careful with this. And like I mentioned before, we were looking into extending our services for daycare. So this is money that we were collecting, if you want, building up a little reserve that if we want to acquire a facility at one point, we have the funds, the necessary funds to do it. Because like we've mentioned before, and part of the strategic plan, part of my business plan for the last 4 years, the extension of the daycare was always part of the plan. So we were trying to plan for the future. And also there's things with the before and after daycare. There are 9 non-qualified educators that would be essentially supposed to be qualified educators, but because there's such a big lack of educators, the graduate ones, the ministry do authorize what we say educators. But if we always post, when we post some jobs, they're always posted as qualified educators. So if we do find those educators, the salary is much higher than a non-qualified. So that's a difference in salaries that we could maybe facing. Also, the non-qualified and the qualified educators for the before and after day school will be evaluated with the Hay Group this year. So we are not sure of the outcome of this, so we're trying to be proactive in this part. So there's a lot of, planning that we're trying to do that we do not have to come back, and we are still feasible at the end of the year.
And just to clarify, we're talking about an increase for a full day from $28 to $30.
That's right, it's $2. And a lot of parents that are part-time will see maybe a $4 increase for the week. And I did the average this today with all the daycares, part of the Catholic school board, which we are part of, and we're below average for all the daycares. So, and I understand your concern when you say, well, we don't need to compare ourselves, but still, I think that parents are getting a very good quality and the money for their service that they're getting from us.
Conseiller Brisson, then back to Conseiller Lorraine.
For the daycare, that service is only in Emblem right now, or there's some in Russell.
Madame Vital?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, that's right. We only have a contract with the Catholic French School Board, which is at La Croisille and Saint-Jean.
So is it something that is looked at, maybe to extend it to Russell, and that we might need those funds for?
We can't say right now where we would go, but there's definitely demand on both sides, like in Russell and Emblem, because you just look at the house development that is going on, and those houses are sold not to older people, they're sold to younger families who have younger kids that will need daycare.
Just out of curiosity, excuse me, Monsieur Le Duc, I know we recently did a retail market demand study that said, what we're lacking I'm assuming that through different organizations, we're able to get some future numbers of possibly what we could see as a demand in our daycare services. Is there enough, is there not enough? Monsieur Leduc?
To my own conseil, I'm trying to get to some numbers, as far as the number of kids of those aged from 0 to 18 months old. And from 8-19 to 3 and 3 to 5, how many are being daycared in a private home or being daycared in a public system or in a private system? So I'm trying to get all this information, so to bring a report to council to see what's the shortfall, where are the shortages, where are they, and to bring recommendations to the council regarding what to do next with those funds.
And that'll be, as Madame Ducal stated, that's part of our strategic plan, your business plan to the future of the daycare services for the municipal stand.
That's right.
Monsieur Leduc?
Maybe to respond to Mr. Biscan's question, even though we're not offering those services, the schools have those services offered by either other privates or they're doing on their own service. So there is service provided to those schools, but there's no
Municipal contract?
there's no preschool program, or very limited preschool programs in our municipality.
Yes. The associate?
Well, I was just gonna correct you on that, there is a preschool program at Russell Public for up to 18 months.
Yeah.
So they do have a toddler program now, which was just started in January. Yeah.
There is a St. Joseph as well.
We just started.
Yeah.
Don't say that.
Yeah, so, I mean, forgive me, but I still don't hear a reason to increase the fees. You know, you say you want a small reserve, $500,000 to me is not a small reserve for daycare costs. And just to increase because we're below average, to me, doesn't make sense. So, council can vote on it, I obviously won't vote in favor of an increase when we're sitting on a $500,000 reserve just to increase because everyone else is higher. Yeah, and the last one I have here is salaries. I see there was a chart put in comparison, so I guess I'm looking to council to see whether or not the 2% is where they wanna be or whether or not they wanna be at a different rate.
Are we looking for changes? Any changes? I'm fine with the 2% based on the information we're provided. I'm not sure if members of council have another view. Councilor Associate?
I'm okay with the 2% increase.
Okay. Councilor Tomasky, Councilor Bisson? Everybody seems to be okay with the 2%. Okay.
That's all I have for today,
Yeah.
for that.
Councilor Tomasky?
Just a quick question on process. So if, for example, for the after-school program, if we find that the reserve program, the reserve fund is high enough and we don't feel there should be an increase, is that voted on separately now then? Is that the idea behind it?
So what'll happen is when we get to when we put it on the table, if a member of council wants to make an amendment, to make a change at that point in time, and if there's a mover and seconder to put the amendment on the table, then we'll have a discussion and a vote on that amendment.
Thank you.
Tonight, or is that part of the
Well,
budget? Like, are we voting, that's voted on as part of the budget tonight, right?
yes, that's correct. So when we put the budget on the table, any amendments being proposed and discussed at that point in time.
Okay, so I got a procedural question then. Based on the fact we did an informal poll on almost everything that I've discussed.
Yeah.
Do I need to then put it on the table again to vote on it, or?
At that point in time, you've heard the discussions, so
Right.
if you still wanna put something on the table and move an amendment, then you do so. If you have a seconder, then
Okay.
we'll have that discussion.
Well, I think it's all been documented and recorded already, what the will of council is on all those items, so I guess I'm not gonna have to do that amendment request. You know, I'll consider that throughout the evening, and then when it comes to it, I'll see whether or not I wanna put it all in one request from that.
Any other questions on the budget from members of council? No, anything to add from the administration? No, we'll move on to the next subject. Subject M, Asset Management Semi-Annual Activity Report, Report AM 01-2019. The council receives Activity Report AM 01-2019 dated February 19th, 2019. Questions, comments, members of council? Or I'll let Monsieur Godin give us a little little bit of information on the activity report.
Merci, Monsieur Maire. So I mean, just to echo my comments from earlier with the finance team, a lot of work's been done with asset management as well. Different requirements from the province and different initiatives were used in budget preparation. But I also want to extend my gratitude to my colleagues Jonathan Logon and Céline Vidal, who with me and with part of our staff as well now form part of the asset management committee. So it's really a group effort, even though for now it's only my name who's on these reports. I should probably get that changed because it's a lot of teamwork being done here with the other departments.
They're letting you take the credit, but if something hits the fan, then your name's on the report as well. Okay, thank you very much, Monsieur Godin. Councillor Tarasky.
Just a quick question, Mr. Godet. Just to clarify, so it's the LED move in Embrum's 18%, Embrum's 30% savings, 18% in Russell. Is there a reasoning behind the variance like that?
Monsieur Leduc, Monsieur Godin.
Merci, Monsieur Maire. Donc, Councillor Tarasky. Basically, it's just the scope of the projects. I mean, a study was done to both arenas based on existing lighting and potential for savings in energy. I think it's the amount, like a larger amount of lights were changed in Embrun, and because bigger savings were identified as being potential there. These are the estimates that were done when we initially, before the project, had a professional go through the units. We were expecting more savings from Embrun, and that's how it came out as well.
Just based on the existing system. That was at the time. Okay, thank you. Other questions or comments? Move on to the next item. Item N, amendment to, Item N, amendment to the traffic and parking bylaw report PIC 04A 2019 to add a no parking area on the east side of Broadway Avenue between the entrance to 148 Craig Street, Foodland entrance located on Broadway Avenue and Craig Street, and also on the west side of Broadway Avenue from Craig Street for a distance of 20 meters. The council receives report PIC 04A 2019 dated February 19, 2019, and approves in this report the proposed bylaw amendment to traffic and parking bylaw 31-2004 to add a no parking spaces along the west side of Broadway Avenue starting on Craig Street and for 20 meters on north on Broadway Avenue. Also on the east side of Broadway Avenue between Craig Street to 148 Craig. Entrance located on Broadway Avenue to allow better visibility for motorists. Questions, comments, members of council? Councilor Associate.
Yeah, well, I just experienced this myself. There was a transport parked right in front on Craig Street, and I had to inch out to try and look around to see. So I'm really happy to see this going to be implemented. And there was also a really bad accident there this weekend. So visibility is a great.
Any other questions, members of council? Conseil Larry?
Yeah, we already did the front, right, on Craig Street itself. It's just on the side street that we're talking about, correct?
The front is county road, so it was
Just to be, okay.
brought to counties, and this one reflects the change that was requested to shorten the no parking area on the boundary on the west side.
Broadway.
Yeah, I like the fact that it gives a little bit of parking there
Yeah.
for like a big truck or whatever, so I like that we did that exception, so I'm happy with this report, thank you.
Okay, parfait. Other questions or comments? Quelque chose d'autre à ajouter? No? Move on to item O, Public Safety and Enforcement Semi-Annual Activity Report, PIC 06 2019. The council receives report PIC 06 2019 dated February 19, 2019. Monsieur Leduc, Madame Bourdeau.
This is it was brought on January 21st, and it was requested that we review the parking in front of the library.
Attends, excuse. C'est ton semi-annual activity.
Okay.
C'était juste de donner la chance de.
C'est correct. So, I'm not gonna go through the entire, report, but, there's been numerous projects completed. There's, still a lot ongoing projects. And, as you can see at the end, you see all the occurrence counts, and, it's actually increased quite a bit, almost 1,900 some calls more in 2018 than in 2017, so it seems to keep on increasing. So,
On that note, I saw in the report that, I'm not looking for an answer tonight, but I saw that there is a large increase in the last 4 years. Like you say, there's almost 1,000 calls. We see a large percentage is calls by, how they come in, the calls, emails, or by the officers themselves, and a large percentage is the officers. Do we know, I'm not sure, I don't think we tracked that way in the past. But like, do we know it 4 years ago, what that same chart, saying where I'm just curious, are we seeing 1,000 more calls because it's our officers that are finding all the extra calls, or is it that a lot more complaints are coming in? So I'm just trying to.
I could probably get the information since 2015.
Just maybe a comparison at one point in time, just maybe an email and just let us know. I was just curious. But no, as definitely we're seeing a lot more activity, and we're a municipality who's in full growth mode, right? And we see a lot of people that are coming to the municipality that are used to other municipalities, and maybe they're looking for services that, are looking at the bylaws differently than we're used to. So. Castel, membres du conseil? Councillor Associate?
Okay, excuse my ignorance, what is 511 training?
511 is for the, road closure,
Oh,
the new module that we're using for the road closure notification.
When we get emails saying
okay,
that
great.
that date is good.
Okay, and the cannabis smoking regulations and review of the smoking bylaw and parks, et cetera, like, will we get to see that?
Yeah, it has to come to council for approval.
Okay, perfect, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, merci.
Thank you. D'autres questions, commentaires? Quelque chose d'autre à ajouter, Madame Lambeau? No? Okay, we'll move on. Item P, Sign Bylaw Amendment Report PIC 07-2019 relating to portable signs. The council receives report PIC 07-2019 dated February 19th, 2019, and as recommended in this report, approves the proposed amendments to the Sign Bylaw 2016-052 by adding section 10.8 relating to portable signs. Questions, comments, members of council? This was based on a discussion we had previously at the table. Councillor Tanoski, I believe you were looking for some changes. I'm not sure if you have any comments on this. Councillor Tanoski?
So I want to thank Madame Bourdeau for her efforts and her openness in our discussions, and her team to come up with this solution. During the campaigning, there were quite a few comments I received from businesses pertaining to the temporary sign bylaw, and through creativity and understanding, Madame Bourdeau came with some really good ideas that are put into this amendment, so I'm very happy to see that. Thank you.
Thank you. D'autres questions, commentaires? Quelque chose d'autre à ajouter, Madame Bourdeau? No? Okay.
Unless you want me to do it.
No, we've had the report since last week. I think everybody's had the opportunity to go through it, so. We'll move on to the next item, item Q, which is the amendment to traffic and parking bylaw report PIC 08-2019. That council receives report PIC 08-2019 dated February 19, 2019, and rejects as recommended in this report the proposed bylaw amendment to traffic and parking bylaw 31-2004 to amend the no stopping area on each side of the library entrance on Concession Street. This was again from discussions that came from council. Madame Bourdeau, if you want to give us a little bit of information.
Yes, it was suggested that the area be extended, the no stopping area be extended on each side of the entrance to the library. But, going on site and viewing the area, I think that, if we eliminate the stopping on each side of the entrance, it will only bring the buses further south on Concession to wait for the school, and I think that the problem's gonna be at the residential, area where people are gonna be stuck with buses between their entrances during that time. So that's why, I will go talk to the school and see if there's a possibility that they put the buses, get an agreement with the agricultural society and maybe put the buses in the parking lot there instead of on the street. It seems like we're getting more and more buses on the street, so try to move the buses instead of pushing them down the street. So that's why I think we're gonna have issues with entrances to residential areas.
Yeah, cause currently, looking at the map, there's no real residents in that area, but as you mentioned, if we do put no parking signs there, the buses will go further south, right into the heart of the residential area.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Larre?
So I know this was a request that I had made, and the fact is, there are people that have come to me that use the library and say that during that time period, it is extremely dangerous to get out of the library, and that they've been almost hit on multiple occasions. So if we're recommending to reject this, what's the alternative? How do we fix this? You know, do we leave, 10 meters on both sides? Do we do something to move the buses up a little bit more to allow for the cars to pull out of the parking lot? Because, I'd hate to come back next week and find out that there's been an accident there. It doesn't make sense that, we're not doing anything to fix a problem that we know that exists. And I know it's for a short period of time, but it's probably about an hour's length throughout the day, from the time they start lining up to the time they actually leave. So I don't know what the option is, but I'll suggest a 10-meter buffer on each side, right at the entrance, to allow for, at least at that point in time, one bus could park out front on 28 meters, so I guess on the south side. If a bus is 14 meters, if I read that correctly, then you put at least one bus there, and you'd be able to still put two buses on the front side. So,
Correct me if I'm wrong, Madame Abdul, but at the entranceway, isn't there a certain distance they're not supposed to park to begin with?
It's 1.5 meters, it's not
only-
much.
It's only 1.5. Councillor Sosi?
Well, I kinda like that idea that you're suggesting is, that they could wait in the parking lot at the, arena.
Yes, but that's up to the school board to make arrangements with,
Oh, okay.
or the bus company
Yeah.
to make
Because then
arrangements.
they'd be off the street and then they just could wait and then all start pulling into the parking, or into the driveway to pick up the kids. Instead of, they are, I really see, Councilor Lorraine's point. If
Yes,
a car
it's
is
a
trying to
hard
get out of
situation.
the library, it's almost impossible to see.
Conseiller Brisson?
Juste savoir que tu disais pour une entrée, c'est 1,2 mètres,
1.5.
1,5. Est-ce que c'est la même chose aussi que des intersections? C'est-tu 1,5
Les
aussi?
intersections, c'est 3 mètres.
Pour bien voir un peu comme une intersection, ça pourrait être considéré, au lieu d'1,5 que ça soit 3, que ça pourrait donner un petit peu plus de visibilité que quand il sort. Ça, j'aurais aucun problème non plus, puis ça prend pas bien plus dedans. Parce que au moins, il y aurait le temps de voir un petit peu plus quand il arrive pour sortir. Vu que c'est pas comme juste une entrée de maison ordinaire, c'est plus comme un chemin. Fait que ça pourrait peut-être être une suggestion que ça soit mis un 3 mètres, exemple, ici, comme de spot parking. Puis,
Councillor Larre?
So I appreciate that. I've asked for this item to be removed as well as part of the items that I requested. So I will ask for an amendment to go to 5 meters on this, on this side.
Okay. Move on to the next item. Item R, Economic Development Semi-Annual Activity Report, EcoDev 02-2019. Council receives report EcoDev 02-2019 dated February 19, 2019. Monsieur le Duc, Madame Tremblay.
Bonsoir. Au niveau du développement économique, j'aimerais juste passer à travers les projets qui ont été complétés dans l'année 2018. Donc, on est à préparer un appel d'offres pour le transit. Donc, à la première rencontre de mars, le Conseil pourra revoir le RFP qui va être soumis pour le transit. So, just to make it clear that Council will have the opportunity to make comments on the RFP that will be prepared for transit before we issue the RFP. En collaboration avec le développement de communication, on a développé et fait l'installation du RAP d'autobus. Donc, vous avez pu voir le RAP d'autobus qui se promène dans la ville d'Ottawa à quatre reprises durant la journée, indiquant qu'on est la 3e meilleure place à vivre au Canada. We've completed the retail market demand study analysis. So, based on the presentation that was done by the consultant, we will send you the final report. So, if you want to share it with the people that are asking to view the report, it's going to be available to the public. As well, we've completed with the grant, the red grant that we received. We've completed our quick facts, so it was submitted to members of council. There's a complete community profile that was completed, but just to make it easier when we meet with people, we've completed one quick fact for quality of life and one for businesses in the 417 Industrial Park. So it was attached to the report. As well, I would like to introduce you the promotional video that was conducted by the same firm. So as you remember, in 2018, we had the video that was completed to promote our 417 Industrial Park. So now we've just completed the one for quality of life. So if Mary's wanted to... Donc, on a essayé de capturer le plus possible ce qui reflète dans la municipalité de Russell, donc les activités, la qualité de vie qu'on essaie de reproduire le mieux possible dans une vidéo. Donc, la promotion de cette vidéo-là va se faire sur notre site Internet, donc on voulait que vous soyez les premiers à le voir. Donc, demain, on va faire des publications sur Facebook pour que les gens puissent le partager. Puis aussi dans notre site, dans la section de Portfolio, au lieu d'avoir la vidéo des comptes Disney Prescott Russell, ça va être la vidéo des comptes Disney de la municipalité de Russell. Il y a aussi une version raccourcie, donc il y a une version de 30 secondes au lieu de 2 à 2 minutes et demie. Si jamais vous voulez qu'on la partage, il n'y a pas de problème, on va faire de même. Donc, il y a aussi des projets mensuels qu'on fait à tous les mois, donc des profils d'entreprise. So every month we complete business profiles that are shared on Facebook, Reflet website. Donc, à tous les mois, on fait des profils d'entreprise. Ça rejoint environ plus de 2000 personnes sur Facebook, donc des personnes qui partagent. C'est des entreprises qui nous rejoignent, puis souvent, qu'on leur donne un peu plus de visibilité en faisant des entrevues avec eux autres, avec les propriétaires des entreprises. Donc, je pense que c'est quelque chose que les entreprises apprécient beaucoup. Donc, au niveau du CIP, last year we've gave away a lot of money that was awarded for La Co-op, for example, Allison's from Reps, and we had also FP Properties. Those are also shared on Facebook when we give money under the CIP grant.
J'ai une couple de questions sur
Yeah.
conseiller Buisson et le conseiller Lalin.
Juste quand il y a eu la vidéo, je voyais qu'à la fin, ça disait comme municipalité de Russell municipalité. Juste avant la chose, ça disait No Wonder. On l'a-tu en français, ça?
Oui, il y a une version française
Française
aussi,
aussi.
donc elle est partagée aussi sur
Donc, je
Facebook.
pensais que c'était en même parce que vu qu'il y avait les choses de municipalité et tout ça,
Non,
je pensais que les deux, vu qu'il n'y avait pas beaucoup d'écriture, je pensais qu'elle avait été
il y
mise
a deux
ensemble.
versions du vidéo.
Conseiller Lalin?
Yeah, I just want to clarify something that you just said a moment ago so that we all understand the right terminologies. We didn't give away taxpayer money. We invested in our businesses, in our community. Is that a more accurate reflection? Or did we just give the money? Like, did we just give it away to them?
Madame Tremblay?
I'm,
It's through the community improvement plan.
Yeah.
you understand what I'm saying? Just the way it was said, is that we gave away money. We invested in our community is what we're trying to do with this CIP plan. So, just in case somebody hears that one, clip it, and I just wanna make sure that they know that the CIP program is an important part of this community. You guys are doing a great job with it, I fully support it, but it's an investment into the community.
Councillor Kanowski?
In light with Mr. Bisson's questions, is there a winter version of that video as well?
So we've tried as much as possible. So they started filming in June of last year, and we were trying to complete it by the October. So we've tried as much as possible to get the hockey season, but there was no fall capture. Sorry.
Okay.
Fantastic video.
Yeah, that's good.
Donc, pour poursuivre au niveau du rapport, je voudrais juste aussi mentionner les efforts au niveau du département, qu'à tous les fois qu'il y a des nouvelles entreprises, qu'on est au courant, qui ouvrent les portes dans la municipalité, moi et Vanessa, donc notre agent de développement économique, on se déplace à toutes les entreprises, on va s'introduire, puis on va leur donner nos coordonnées, puis on explique les programmes qui sont disponibles pour eux. Donc, c'est une première introduction. Je pense que les entrepreneurs aiment le fait qu'on se déplace puis qu'on aille dans leurs entreprises se présenter puis s'introduire pour être capable d'avoir nos coordonnées puis de leur mentionner qu'on est accessible puis qu'on peut leur donner les informations nécessaires. Aussi attaché au rapport, vous avez pu avoir le rapport final de OPRO, so the BRNE project that was completed with the United County of Prescott Russell. So you have received a report, so if you know people that would like to get copies, we have extra copies, paper copies that are available, and it's also going to be available on our website. We've completed the RFP design for the new sign in the 417 Industrial Park. So as you know, the money was approved in the budget, so we'll proceed with the RFP. And you'll shortly receive as well the policy for the pricing to advertise on that sign. And we've completed the purchase of 60 acre in the 417 Industrial Park. So that was the project that were completed last year. just the ongoing project, as you know, as part of the budget as well, we've applied for a grant, so the EODF grant to have a business plan completed for business incubator in the township of Russell. So that's coming and we'll receive an answer shortly on the grant application. Et aussi, on est en train de développer un programme de commandite pour la nouvelle enseigne dans le parc industriel. Puis, dans les projets à venir, il va y avoir dans le programme de OPRO, so in the BRNE program, you'll see what's missing for the businesses. So there's a lot of businesses that answered that didn't have a business plan, that had a hard time to hire la main-d'œuvre qualifiée for their businesses. So we're working on having lunch and learn with businesses to have specific subjects. So the first lunch and learn will be to have somebody that will explain that it's easy to have a business plan and how they could have help to produce their business plan. So we're gonna use that information that was done into the OPRO program to qualify of lunch and learn and invite businesses. And also we, in March 21st, 2019, in collaboration with EMC, we will have a Excellence in Manufacturing Consortium that it is organized by the EMC and it's going to be held at the township for businesses, especially in the manufacturing sector. And as every time that we produce that report, you have the stats for the transit that are attached, and that's about it.
Okay, thank you very much. Busy department.
Yeah.
Councillor Chanowski, then Councillor Sosi.
Thank you, Madame Tomei. Just a quick question. The lunch and learn that you're mentioning, because you mentioned business plan development, is that something that will be open to not just businesses, but individuals as well that want to start up a business?
So we try to share that invitation as much people as possible. So we send the invitation normally to all the businesses, and it's posted on Facebook, so everybody's welcome to attend.
Councillor Sosi?
Yeah, I don't know where I saw it, but there was an information kiosk at Town Hall.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, what is that gonna be?
It's-
Like, is it like what we have out there
Yeah.
now?
That's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's over there, and it's through the United County of Prescott and Russell. So if you're a new business and you want to start, so you just sign up, and it makes you it brings you in contact with the person at the county and explains the grants that are available for throughout the counties for the Société de Développement Économique de Prescott Russell.
Because I was just gonna suggest, like, I know we have that wall unit, but instead of having things just on the table, that we
Mhm.
actually had some kind of display, for.
Yeah. Well, it's an electronic, it's there now, it's an electronic thing, it's touch screen.
Oh, really, I missed
Yeah.
that. Okay.
It's not working at the moment, so maybe that's why you didn't see it. So
Okay.
since we've changed a couple of things with the internet at the township, it's not working for the last couple of months, but when it's working, it's a touch screen that people could enter their information and type of businesses that they want to start up with. And it brings you programs that you're available to access through the counties.
D'autres questions? Conseiller Brisson?
Quand il revient avec le dîner-conférence, c'est déjà planifié ces dîners-conférences-là?
Non, la date n'est pas encore déterminée, parce qu'on essaie de trouver quelqu'un qui est qualifié pour justement donner le dîner-conférence, pour justement aider les entreprises à démarrer leur plan d'affaires. Mais dès qu'on a la personne qui nous confirme, à ce moment-là, la date va être déterminée. Je peux vous envoyer un courriel aussi pour vous indiquer la date de quand ça va être
Ok. Merci beaucoup.
Other questions or comments? Quelque chose d'autre à ajouter?
Non.
No? We'll move on. Item S, Tree Canopy Policy, Report ISPW 01-2019. The council receives report ISPW 01-2019 dated February 19, 2019, and approves the proposed bylaw for the tree canopy policy. Questions, comments, members of council? Councilor Associate?
Is Monsieur Bogon, are you gonna be doing any presentation on this or not? No?
Monsieur Bourgault?
I was gonna do a brief, yes, of what I
Okay, so maybe I'll wait till you do that and then I'll ask my question.
Okay. Allez-y, Monsieur Bourgault.
Merci, Monsieur le maire. Donc, l'an dernier, il est annoncé avec les amendements dans la loi municipale que chaque conseil doit adopter une politique pour protéger, dans le fond, les espaces verts puis la couverture forestière. The county approved their own policy later, well, should say in 2018 already, basically referring to their official plan. So for this policy that's being proposed to council, we're referring to the official plan of the county and the official plan of the township, which already covers a variety of items for the tree coverage or protection. We also included in part of that policy a plan of action. Donc, 5 items proposés au conseil pour, dans le fond, y étairer ce qui est déjà présenté dans le plan officiel de la municipalité, comme a tree conservation bylaw or a tree protection bylaw, which can be tailored in different ways. So that's an item that could be brought back to council at a later time. We also have to review the development or how the development is made from the point of view of tree planting. So maybe increase tree planting around proposed ponds, to include stormwater management with trees in the street boulevard. So that type of standards. Continue to adopt a budget that includes tree planting. Donc on peut aussi, le quatrième item, ce serait explorer des sites alternatifs ou être prêt pour la plantation des arbres. Donc le dépotoir est un bon exemple. On a commencé à faire des démarches auprès de South Nation et du ministère là, pour nous permettre d'aller de l'avant avec ça. Ou un autre exemple serait d'avoir des parcs là, déjà prêts, des sites spécifiques où un certain type d'arbre correspondant avec le bon type de sol. Donc, ces endroits être prédéterminés. Également, lorsqu'on fait une reconstruction de rue, en ce moment, je donne un autre exemple, on fait une reconstruction de rue, on pourrait inclure la plantation d'arbres en faisant partie là, du reinstatement ou du revitalisement là, de la rue. And the last element would be to create a public education center or information center that we could regroup all type of information from different organizations or tree planting activities that could be all regrouped under one section as from our website as an example.
And this, obviously, they have an environment committee, this will be part of their discussions.
Exactly. So those elements, it's to lay down a path of like things that can be done in the past, and obviously to be worked out with our committee. That policy was presented to the EAC a couple of weeks ago. Being a new committee just after the election, timing was critical, but we at least they had the opportunity to see the document.
Merci, Monsieur Bourgon. Questions, Councilor Saucier?
Well, as you know, I'm very pleased with this report, and the one thing, to get from 12% up to a minimum requirement of 30% would be like not a 1-for-1 tree, but we'd have to increase it to a minimum of 2-for-1, or the recommendation actually is 4-to-1 if you want to increase tree coverage. And then incorporate green space land, like if we could get even donated land or places where we could plant trees with South Nation or whatever, but if even farmers would donate some land, and then we could make some green belts. Also on roads, main thoroughfares where there's a lot of snow drifting, we've talked about that before, to get trees planted, and also along the shoreline for riparian coverage, because that helps the health of the river. So those are some of the recommendations that I would. But I know the committee was pleased to see the report, and we'll be happy to work on that avec Monsieur Bourgon. Merci.
Thank you, Councilor Saucier. Any questions, comments, members of council? Quelque chose d'autre à ajouter, Monsieur Bourgon? No. Okay. Next item will be item T, but we'll take a 5-minute break, stretch our legs a little bit, and we'll be back at 7:40.
I do, but it's.
Ouais, c'est pas bien faire, là. Ah, c'est-
Stretch our legs a little bit. We'll move on to the next item. Item T, Community Grants, Report PR 04-2019. The council receives report PR 04-2019 dated February 19, 2019, approves the following department's recommendation for community grant donations in 2019 to the following groups. 1, to approve an in-kind grant in the amount of $465 to Russell Trivia Night for the Russell Cadets for the rental of the Frank Kennard Hall for their Trivia Night on March 16, 2019. 2, to approve an in-kind grant in the amount of $465 to Russell Trivia Night for Jamie Antabelli and children for the rental of Frank Kennard Hall for their Trivia Night on March 30th, 2019. 3, to approve an in-kind grant in the amount of $465 to Russell Trivia Night, Russell Township Museum for the rental of Frank Kennard Hall for their Trivia Night on June 1st, 2019. 4, to approve an in-kind grant in the amount of $465 to the Russell Trivia Night, Santas for Seniors for the rental of Frank Kennard Hall for the Trivia Night on November 30th, 2019. According to Community Grants and Contribution Guidelines, the above requests meet our requirements for funding. Item 5, to refuse an in-kind grant in the amount of $465 to the Russell Trivia Night, Fight Wind Turbines for the rental of Frank Kennard Hall for the Trivia Night on February 23rd, 2019. 6, to refuse an in-kind grant in the amount of $465 to Russell Trivia Night for the Big Sky Ranch for the rental of Frank Kennard Hall for the Trivia Night on March 23rd. 7, to refuse an in-kind grant in the amount of $465 to Russell Trivia Night for the Russell Masons for their rental of Frank Kennard Hall for their Trivia Nights on April 20th, 2019. 8, to refuse an in-kind grant in the amount of $465 to the Russell Trivia Night for Ambassador Ministries Covenant for the rental of Frank Kennard Hall for their Trivia Night on April 27th, 2019. 9, to refuse an in-kind grant in the amount of $465 to the Russell Trivia Night, Bereaved Families of Ontario for the rental of Frank Kennard Hall for their Trivia Night on May 11th, 2019. And 10, to refuse an in-kind grant in the amount of $465 to Russell Trivia Night, Osgood Care Center for the rental of the Frank Kennard Hall for their Trivia Night on October 26, 2019. If council decides to refuse the staff recommendations, decide to approve all above requests, the total amount given to the Russell Trivia Night would be $4,650 for a total of 10 requests. Questions, comments, members of council? Councilor Sosi.
Okay, I understand the reasoning behind this, but, there was a couple of ones I was, had questions on. Number 7, the Masons, what is their request for? Like, is it for repairs for the building, or is it,
So let's, just to be clear, all these are for trivia nights.
yes?
So if
We
we
don't
have,
know what the request for the,
what they do
fundraising
with
is?
their funds, that's
No.
what you're looking for?
Yeah,
But with the funds raised at the trivia night, you're looking to see what they're looking to do,
Yeah.
correct?
cause I'm just curious, like, I know we don't donate to, religious organizations, but, is the, I'm thinking of Chevalier de Coulombe, have we donated to some of the, like, the Knights, or is it sort of like the Lions? I'm not sure.
Monsieur le Duc, Madame Guiton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Yeah, the Masons are just like the Knights of Columbus, but, they're linked, I think, if I'm mistaken, to the, Protestants.
To the what?
Protestant,
Okay,
yeah, Knights of Columbus is Catholic.
okay.
Yes, it's for building renovations.
For building renovations, okay. And then, I just wanted to sort of, give a little background on some of them. The one, number 9, the bereaved families, I had a concern about that one because we don't have such a service here, and anybody that's going through bereavement would seek out, so I felt like it does affect our citizens because they would seek help from these organizations. Also, number 10, the Osgood Care Center. Many of our township residents have loved ones in the Osgood Care Center. We don't have a facility here such as that. So I was a little concerned about those. And the other one, for, the ministry, or, Covenant, Anita Baker, I believe the funds are for her school in Africa, so it's not for the church. And then the, number 6, the Big Sky, that came from a plea, it's for abused animals, and again, we don't have such a facility here, but it's for any animals that are neglected. It could be from this area, and that's they take them on, but because the winter was so harsh, they were looking for help to assist with heating and hay and feed for all the animals that they're housing, and they're, a volunteer organization. So I just had, some concerns about those ones.
Okay. Questions, other questions, comments? Conseiller Brisson?
Ben, c'est un peu, je sais qu'on avait déjà demandé si on pouvait avoir un peu de background dans ces choses-là comme Trivia Night, si c'était faisable.
Oui, Madame Guitard, je crois qu'elle a toute l'information. Alors, s'il y a des questions, tu as juste à demander.
OK. Mais est-ce que ça peut être disponible quand on a notre rapport, des avoirs, ces choses-là, que là, on n'a pas tout le temps. Comme ça, quand on passe au travers, on le sait d'avance dans ces choses-là, ça serait intéressant de pourquoi que c'est utilisé, là.
Oui, Monsieur le Duc, Madame Guitard, would it be difficult to put it as part of our package? No, it would just mean a lot more paperwork in the package.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, that's it. We had this discussion at budget, and we had the direction that I would be coming back sometime in May to reopen the policy and very probably include the grant request with the council package. Obviously, like today, we have 10 requests. Yes, it means more paper attached to the document, but at least you would see exactly where the money is, what's the intention to do with the funds. And to answer Councillor Sosi, for the Confident Ministries, it's to provide some money for the administrative cost of the community programs. And for the shelter, it's the food and housing for the animals at Ottawa's only non-kill shelter. Those are where the money is intended to go if the grants are approved by council.
Okay. D'autres questions, Conseiller Laurent?
More of a comment, I've asked this one to be removed as well as part of the request, so if Councillor Sosi or if anybody else has any amendments to make, they can do so at that time.
Conseiller Laurent? Brisson, excuse.
Ouais, c'est juste que, un peu d'explication justement parce que c'est comme le numéro 2 qui a été approuvé, Jamie Unfamiliar and Children, est-ce que c'est pour une famille seulement ou c'est quoi le...
Monsieur le Duc, Madame Guitard, je crois que it's a family in need.
Thank you, Mr. Member, members of council. Yes, it's a Russell family.
OK.
It's family in the community that has
OK, c'est pour une famille. Juste voir, ça, il y en avait bien que je ne sais pas. Refuse of interview. Puis le Russell Mason, c'était pour...
aider à les réparations à la bâtisse.
C'est quoi, c'est l'ambassadeur Ministry?
Convenant. Ça, c'est ce que Madame Guitard vient juste de dire. It's to help with administrative costs.
Oui, mais c'est administrative, mais ils font quoi, eux autres?
Monsieur le Duc, Madame Guitard.
Je pense que c'est relié à une certaine religion, un groupe religieux.
OK, mais il y en a... OK, c'est une chose religieuse, mais c'est...
C'est relié à la religion. Je pense pas que ça représente un ministère spécifique. Là.
Mais comme relié, c'est pas comme les chevaliers de Colombe.
Non.
C'est pas la chose.
Non.
Mais c'est une organisation qu'il y a dans le ressources, ça?
Oui, c'est une organisation locale. Juste confirmation, maybe for councillors. We've had discussions in regards to religious entities in the past. I'm trying to remember the church. We had a couple of requests from a church in Russell, a church in Embrun had made requests at one point in time. If I remember well, those were turned down. And same thing with the snow plowing for the church parking lot. That was something that was brought before council and that was turned down as well.
I just want to confirm, because I do have the letters patent from the Ambassador Ministries. So in French it says Ambassadeur Ministère dans l'Alliance de Dieu.
Councillor,
I believe in the past we've refused the items that were monetary in nature and anything that they were doing directly. I think here, they're holding a trivia night to raise funds. So we're giving them a free hall rental so they can raise funds for certain causes. I don't have a problem with that in terms of the, what group it is from, as long as they're primarily a group from the municipality, or that it affects people from the municipality and they're raising the funds for that I think we should be looking into approving those items. I agree with Councillor Saucier, the Osgood Care Center, we have a lot of residents from Russell that attend there. The Masons, they're fixing up their building in Russell,
I have no problem.
So I think that when it comes to the resolution, I would support whatever Councillor Saucier puts on the table for that, for approving a few of those other items that are being refused. And again, nothing against the department, you're doing your job, you're refusing what the policy, you're acting on the policy, so there's nothing against that, but just for us to revisit it.
Yeah, and I think I indicated in the past, since we know that trivia night is very big in Russell, there's always going to be requests. We should be looking to sit down with them to put a contract in place, if you will, that the administration can have standards, and they're fully aware of what council would approve such a contract, and that everybody knows on the same page what you should be looking for, what council seems to be in favor of. I think that's something that we should definitely put in place. Make things easier, that way it wouldn't necessarily have to come back time and time again, just for these requests. Again, this is an item that's separate, so we'll have more discussions on that item at that point in time. Conseiller Brisson?
Et le numéro 9, c'est quoi l'organisation?
Bereaved Families of Ontario.
Ouais.
Ça, c'est quand un décès de la famille, tu as besoin de support. Tu sais, bereaved, c'est quoi le mot français pour bereaved?
Les familles en deuil
En deuil.
Donc, puis il y a une organisation comme ça dans la région?
pour la province.
Pour la province. C'est pas spécifique à notre région.
OK.
Non.
OK.
Okay. Move on to the next item. Item U, Canadian Heritage Canada Cultural Spaces Fund Report PR 06-2019. The council approves and endorses the grant application in the amount of $55,000 for the Canada Cultural Spaces Fund for Canadian Heritage for the renovations at the Keith Boyd Museum in Russell. Questions, comments, members of council? No. Just to confirm, Madame Guitard, Monsieur Godin, in our budget, we've put a line item there. The budget discussions were that we were going with the cheaper way of doing it, unless we got funds that would allow us to do the more expensive option, correct? And we have that line item in the budget stating that if we have funds, then that possibility is there. Monsieur Godin?
That's correct.
Okay, in this case, we're trying to get $55,000 out of the Canada Cultural Spaces. Madame Guitard?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Yes, so as Mr. Mayor's suggestion, we went shopping on the Canadian Heritage site, and we did find two possible funds that we might be eligible. So one of them, by contacting them, I found out that one of them we might be eligible for replacement of $55,000. So if we add this to our already accounted $73,000, we'd be very close to our goal of $139. So I will be trying this application. I do need a formal resolution from council supporting and endorsing the grant request.
Okay, perfect. Councilor Saucier?
And this was to sort of preserve the building also, like, and so that's why we're heading for these funds. Excellent, thank you.
And even if we get the funds, we're still short a little bit, but we have a trivia night that's suggesting that we collect funds for this. So let's see, hopefully we can bring it up to where we need it to be. And at that point in time, if ever there's a shortfall, that discussion will come back to the table and we'll go from there. Okay, quelque chose d'autre à ajouter? Madame Guitard, no? Move on. Item V, Fire Department Quarterly Report, Report Russ M 03-2019. The council receives Report Russ M 03-2019 dated February 19th, 2019. Monsieur Leduc, Chief Duhamel, Chief Armstrong.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, that's our yearly report. You can see the numbers are up a bit this year. There's an extra 26 calls, which our community is growing, so there's nothing specific that sets aside the increase. The last sheet breaks down some of the other stuff we do. One of the big things is the volunteer part that both stations do a lot in the community and continue to do it. So that's not all of them. They're change weekly sometimes. It just gives you an idea. We're still pretty busy in our communities.
Thank you very much, Chief, and thank you to the members of 2 fire departments that go beyond and help volunteer in the community. It's very much appreciated, and I think that residents are quite aware of everything that you do. So thank you very much. D'autres questions, Councillor Tarnowski?
I just had a quick question. What was the spike for in 2014? Like in the amount of calls, like 2014 seems to be an anomaly.
Again, nothing specific. It was just an increase in calls on both sides. Yeah, nothing outstanding.
Silly season for some reason or other.
Election year.
Election year, Madame Cameron. We'll leave that comment aside. Perfect, thank you very much, Chief. Move on to the next item. Item W, Bill 68 update, Council Code of Conduct and Council Staff Relations Policy, Report CL 05-2019. Members of council, questions, comments? We had this discussion at the last meeting, and the administration took notes, and Mr. Leduc has made some changes. If there's anything, Councilor Laudet?
I want to thank Monsieur Leduc and staff for going through the policy even deeper after the lengthy discussion we had at the last meeting. There's still a couple of items that I still have some concerns about, so if you don't mind, I'd like to state a couple items. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So, under, I believe it's there it is there. Under compliance with the code of conduct, under the council code of conduct, it would be on page, I think it would be page 3 or 4 of 16. So, I'll just read the first paragraph. It says, the council shall appoint an integrity commissioner to investigate alleged breaches of code. Members of council are expected to adhere to the provisions of the code of conduct that the Municipal Act 2001 authorizes council, where it has received a report by its integrity commissioner that in his or her opinion there's been a violation of the code of conduct, to impose either of the following items, which is good. I like the fact that we've added some context here. However, underneath, if you go a little further down, it says the integrity commissioner has the final authority to recommend any of the sanctions above or other remedial action at his or her discretion. What does that mean? Like, what are the other remedial actions that they can put in? As a sitting member of council, I'd like to know what my punishments, if you will, are if I do something wrong. Here, you're leaving it up to an integrity commissioner and council to decide at their own discretion what to put in. So this tells me, notwithstanding everything above, there could still be additional remedies put in place.
And just to be clear, this is a recommendation. It's the final authority to recommend. So
Correct.
The integrity commissioner could make a recommendation to council, and council will see fit how it deals with that recommendation.
Right, but we're giving the integrity commissioner a blank slate to recommend something to council, to punish another member of council.
Assuming the council doesn't do anything wrong, there shouldn't be any problems.
I understand that. But if somebody does, then that person needs to know what's gonna happen. Here, we're leaving it wide open for an integrity commissioner to impose something, to recommend something to council to impose, that all members of council sitting here and future members of council have no idea what that could end up being. We say in here already, a reprimand is this, Remuneration is this, but we don't say what anything else is, we're just we're writing a blank check.
Mr.
So-
Leduc?
So now I'm just gonna say, well, it's hard to write a policy that covers everything, and maybe the commissioner has a better solution than a reprimand or something else. So we may look at it today as negative, but it might be something positive too in the future regarding a different recommendation. So I don't know, it's hard to have an all-inclusive policy. So therefore, I mean, normally you see these things, another remedial action as a her discretion. The council can choose to remove that if you choose to. And you just bind the hands of the integrity commissioner to be limited to those that are on the paper here. So,
Councillor Kanowski?
I'll agree with Mr. Leduc. I like that, the flexibility, because it's a recommendation at the end. So the recommendation could be to take ABC course. And something, listing that course right now wouldn't even be in our thoughts, but that could be a recommendation. So limiting that recommendation to say 10 things that they can do, I don't think is ideal.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Councillor Larry?
Yep, so what is the consequence of a council member not adhering to a recommendation of council based on the integrity commissioner's recommendation?
Mr. Leduc?
well, I guess it would be in breach of the code of conduct, subject to another investigation and other recommendations to council. But, I mean, it to be ongoing like that all the time, until the person abides to our code of conduct.
So shouldn't there be steps in here as to, step 1, a step 2, a step 3, like there should be levels of discipline, if you will, that are being encountered. I mean, at the end of the day, the city member of council can't be kicked off of council unless they do something outside of the municipal act. So up until that point, I don't see here, other than the suspension of pay, what else council is actually doing with this. Like, I understand the need that we have to put a policy, a code of conduct in place, but at the end of the day, if it has no teeth to it, it's kind of pointless.
Mr. Leduc?
Well, I will agree with you. It's kind of, that's how the act is written. And we would hope that mayor of council does abide to council's direction, but we can't kick them off the council, so therefore.
Well, we can't sit here, and we've got to look at future councils too, and you never know who's gonna be on council and what they're gonna do. And I'm sure there's been instances in the past of councilor, mayor wrongdoing, and we've seen it in other municipalities. Thank goodness it hasn't been here over the last at least 12 years anyway that I've been sitting here. So I just want to make sure that we're not going above and beyond what we should be doing in imposing all of these items.
I think in regards to not having enough teeth, it's more teeth than we have now. Correct, Mr. Leduc? Because right now, we have nothing. Council doesn't have the ability to impose, in a given situation, a reprimand or a 90-day suspension of pay. Correct?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
So, is it perfect? I don't think it's perfect, but we're in uncharted territories, and essentially all the municipalities are in the same boat. I think that it'll be a living document as we see things happen where things went wrong and then discussions happen. Councils at that point in time, if they feel that there needs to be adjustments, would be able to make an adjustment. Because once this is put in place, Monsieur Leduc, it can be changed down the road. C'est pas final forever.
Well, this is going to be easier than a procedural bylaw to modify, so
Yes.
you can change the policy whenever you feel like doing it.
Councillor Associate and Councillor Levin.
Yeah, I did read it, but I have a question. So say, for instance, the person doesn't agree with what's being imposed, or do they have an opportunity to appeal, just like the same as an employee? You might say, you were not in proper conduct, and they might just not agree with that. And
I
then,
think the clause that was added, Monsieur Leduc, correct me if I'm wrong, the clause that was added gives the member in question the opportunity to provide more information, provide a letter to council and the integrity commissioner to, you know, based on this, I think you should revisit it. Is that my understanding, Monsieur Leduc?
Monsieur le membre du conseil, yeah, there is an option where council may choose to invite a member to comment, provide his comments. I think council will be seen negatively to not offer this opportunity for a council member to respond to something. But again, it depends on the amount of situation, the circumstances too.
Because I think of like an employee getting an appraisal and they might, you know, if they got something negative in there and they don't agree, well, they have the right to appeal that and add their comments as well.
Conseil Larrain?
I'll go further on that item. I think there needs to be a third-party appeal process. How do you appeal to the sanctioning body that actually put down the punishment to begin with? So council puts down a punishment of 90 days pay suspension from another member of council, and all that member of council gets to do is write a letter back to council to say, no, I don't think that's right. They're gonna look at it and go, well, we've already imposed it. So there has to be some sort of a third-party appeal process, independent from council, since council is the one that actually imposed the sanction. So without an independent appeal process, I can't support this.
Councillor Kanowski?
So I understand what Councillor Lorraine is trying to say, but in my opinion, the integrity commissioner is that outside body. They're making a recommendation based on a hopefully unbiased process.
Oh, sorry.
Councillor Larrain?
However, council makes the decision. So to appeal back to council doesn't make sense, right? So the integrity commissioner can say, I'm recommending 1 week's pay suspension. Council comes in and says, no, I want a month's pay suspension, and they impose that. So the person appeals back to council? That doesn't make any sense to me. And even the independent integrity commissioner, can that person, I mean, I would assume that person would have spoken to the member in question and got his or her side of the story to begin with. Here it's saying, it's almost saying that they never spoke to them. And council never seen anything from the members. It says, may choose to request the member to produce something or review questions or comments from the person before making a decision. So the council doesn't even necessarily have to go to that member and get an update on the information. They're just gonna take the information from whoever reported the council member, the integrity commissioner's report, and that's it. So then what do you do on appeal?
So in this case, the way it's written, they can appeal to council and the integrity commissioner. Correct, Mr. Leduc?
So it will be through the integrity commissioner, through back to council saying, okay, well, I omitted this fact, or I'm adding this additional fact to the file, and now for your consideration of either changing or adding to your disciplinary measure.
Conseil Larrain?
I think it's actually the other way. They appeal to council, and then council could choose to go back to the integrity commissioner, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So, I just find that that's not enough.
Okay. We'll be voting this separately.
Correct.
Is there any other items you wanted to discuss, or that was it?
On the council code of conduct, I have one on the council staff relations.
Everybody's okay with the council code of conduct? Okay, so we'll move on to the other comment for the council staff relations policy.
Yeah, it just goes back to the travel requirements, where it says that not more than 2 members of council can travel together. I think in all cases, they tell people to try and travel together to save money, and we're saying that people can't travel together as a group to get to conferences or meetings or whatnot. If we head out to the Warden's Banquet in Alexandria, as an example, we can't put 4 in a car and drive down. I mean, we talk about trying to limit expenses and whatnot. I think that, if we're traveling on a plane, 4 of us can't sit on the same plane together or train. I mean, I find that a little ridiculous that we can't travel on the same flights, the same train, the same bus, the same car to get to different places.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Monsieur Leduc?
Well, my point to last meeting was not about money, it was about constituting quorum of council. That was my point.
And if we had 7 or 9 members of council, 3, 4 going together wouldn't be necessarily a problem. But we're a council of 5, and at 3 we have quorum. And Monsieur Leduc had a good point, which, you know, if we have 3 or 4 members of council driving together to an event and something happens, God forbid, and there's an accident and 3 or 4 members of council have perished or died, you know, we're found with a municipality that has 1 member of council sitting there. So from a risk management policy perspective, I tend to agree that that's a good point as well. Okay, that'll be separate. Yeah, that's part of the one item separate. Any other questions or comments on these 2 policies? Non, quelque chose d'autre à ajouter, Monsieur Leduc? Non. We'll move on to the next item, which was item Y. Nope, sorry. Y. X, which is the clerk semi-annual activity report 06-2019. The council receives report CL 06-2019 dated February 19, 2019. Madame Camille Laflamme.
Good evening, council members. I won't go through in details with the report, but just, you probably noticed that most of it was for elections last year. And what was not done, well, has been transferred to the business plan for this year, because there was a lot of things to be done, and at the last minute as well, from providers and from ministries and different sources. Everything was just, I don't know, more at the end than usually, so that's what I can just point from the report.
Okay, merci beaucoup. Questions, comments, members of council? No? We'll move on to the next item. Item Y, Bill 68 update, Integrity Commissioner. No. Yes. That council receives report CL 07-2019 dated February 19, 2019, and directs the clerk and the chief administrative officer to contact the UCPR Integrity Commissioner to negotiate an offer of service contract and bring back a report and bylaw for council's consideration. Question, comment, members of council? Quelque chose à ajouter, Monsieur Leduc?
Conseil, I understand that it was to be in place by March 1st, and we've been discussing or waiting for council, for counties to get their integrity commissioner to save costs. And municipalities have decided to try to join this service from the counties. So this is why we're a little late running on this nomination appointment, but certainly we need that direction to finalize this agreement and be back at the first meeting of March.
Correct, because it's being approved at the meeting at the United Counties tomorrow. There's just falling timing wise, and they've gone through all their processes and hiring process, RFPs, all that kind of stuff. So instead of 8 municipalities, you know, copying what was being done, we just waited for the counties to do their thing, and now we'll give direction to the administration. Everybody's good with that?
Mr. Mayor, maybe I can add something, just to say also that the integrity commissioner that we will go with, we're not sure yet, but depending on the negotiations, he or she will be also looking at our council code of conduct. So if that person believes that there's something that should be definitely changed, I'm sure they will report something. That's part of their mandate as well, to look at our codes of conduct.
Okay. Conseil Larin?
And just to confirm, under the purchasing policy, an amount of $15,000 does not need to go to tender?
No, I think anything below $25,000 is we can proceed with one quote only.
Okay.
But in this case, we're relying on the counties who went ahead and asked for quotations from different people.
Yeah. Just to be clear, at the county level, there was an RFP that was put out, and nobody applied, and therefore the administration approached different individuals to see. One of the big issues we found here in the United Counties was having the integrity commissioner who spoke French. That seemed to be a big issue, to make sure that we have, well, representation in both official languages for our residents and for council members. So, but, there was a few that were presented, and the counties is, choosing one to more. But they did go through the RFP process to begin with, and there was no applications from anyone else.
I just needed to make sure in case I get asked that we're approving a sole source process to find somebody for, $15,000, up to $15,000, so.
And if I can add, Mr. Mayor, and this was noted as well in the report, we don't know everything because it was in closed session at the counties, but we've been advised by the clerk that there was a process and they weren't able to find anyone, and then they restarted the process, and that's where they were now. So it took almost a year with all the election and the lame duck and all that for them. So if we go to tender, it might take us a while to find the right person as well.
Okay, merci beaucoup. Item Z, amendments to procedural bylaw, CL 2019. Council receives a chart dated February 19, 2019 from the clerk's department with the proposed amendments to council's procedural bylaw 2019-020 as per council's direction on February 4th, 2019. And council approved the amending bylaw. So, these were proposals that were brought forward by Conseiller Lorrain, if I remember well. We can deal, there's 3 recommendations. We can start with the first one. Add a special question period to special council meetings. That's something that personally I have no problems with. Conseiller Brisson?
C'est ça, je voulais dire moi non plus que je trouve ça vraiment une bonne idée, que même si c'est une chose spéciale, que ce soit à propos de ce sujet-là, qu'il y ait une période de questions, ça j'ai aucun problème avec ça, de mettre ça.
Okay, there seems to be general consensus on that one. Second question, add a general question period to regular council meetings under Article 10, General Order of Business, notice given verbally by council member. Okay, so that was what Councilor Reng. Questions, comments? Conseiller Brisson?
Ça, j'aurais un peu de problème avec, parce que nos réunions sont déjà longues, que là, le monde pourrait amener de quoi qui n'a pas rapport du tout, que si, moi personnellement, s'il y a quelqu'un qui a un problème avec d'autres choses qu'il y a dans le rapport-là, soit qu'il fasse une présentation au début, ou qu'il soit amené au travers d'un conseillère, mais de l'avoir une période de questions générales, je sais par expérience que j'avais qu'il l'avait, puis des fois, là, ça venait out of control. Fait que moi, personnellement, j'aimerais que ça reste juste avec les choses qu'est-ce qu'il y a, les questions on the agenda.
Okay, Conseiller Brisson. Conseiller Lorrain?
Yeah, I think the, long out of control piece, something that was not in our agendas before procedure bylaws was a time limit. So here, the proposal is a 15-minute, and the 15-minute could be the combination of both. If that's the concern, that it's gonna go longer. So I have no problem with making that adjustment, but I think there definitely needs to be a general question period to allow for somebody to ask a question of their members of council, if they have a concern outside of what's on that specific agenda. They could be sitting in the audience and something comes up while they're sitting there. They don't have time to go back and get it onto an agenda for 2 weeks away. To me, I don't see why we can't just allow them to ask a question. I mean, it's a simple thing. If we don't have the answer, we say we'll get back to them with the answer. But at least it puts the question on the record and allows for staff to go back and find the answer to the question. So I think it's something that was that was in our agenda packages previously. If we want to limit the entire question period to 15 minutes, being meeting of the day and general question, I have no problem with that. They don't have to be 2 separate 15-minute periods. But I would like to see a general question period added.
Councillor Associate?
Yeah, I would support that as well, Councillor Rand's suggestion.
So,
And we always have the discretion of, you know, getting the person back on track, like you, Mr. Mayor.
I'll give my 2 cents on the matter. I was here at the point when there was just an open question period, and it was changed for a reason, because there was a lot of issues arising from just general questions. 9 times out of 10, the questions being posed, the answer is not readily available. I think that, honestly, if a member of the public can't wait the 2 weeks and needs to ask the question, and they wanted a member as public record, they can send an email to all members of council. The correspondence is part of the public record. I think that limiting questions, first off, most municipalities have no question period whatsoever, even on the agenda of the day. So limiting questions to the agenda of the day is actually helps to keep the meeting on track. And if they have something that needs to be addressed, they're more than willing to contact the administration or members of council. And if they don't get the answers or the information they're looking for, then they can have a delegation request. I think over the last 8 years, it's been working very well, that format. And like I said, it changed for a reason, and I think going back to that would just be taking a step back up in that point. I'll say that.
Yeah, I guess I have two comments to that, or one question and a comment. The first question is, what question would we be scared of? Like, why can't we allow the question to come up? And secondly, in terms of the, so let's make sure I gather my thought here properly. Lost my train of thought on that one, but in terms of the question, like, oh, I know what it was. So the reason why it was taken away previously is because council at the time, specifically the mayor, didn't want to answer the questions from 1 or 2 specific people that kept asking questions time and time again. And that's why it was taken away.
Actually,
I think that there, for the most part, there are many people that have legitimate questions that they would like to ask, and that could be their only opportunity to ask the question. So that's why I've asked to put it back on the table to get it into the procedure bubble.
Thank you. Other questions, comments on this item? So this will be voted on separately as well.
And with the,
That's what I asked for.
yeah, but you said that there was 3 and
Oh, sorry, yes, the third item was just the wording is in regards to how it's worded when the mayor need not vote. I'm fine with the wording. The chair has the choice to participate in any vote. However, she must vote when the vote is to be recorded. That's just making it simpler. Yeah, I have no
but
issues
we'll
with that.
vote for the 3 different items separately, not just for one.
Yeah, so when the item comes on the table,
Yeah.
we can ask for an amendment. These 3 are what's proposed in the resolution itself. And then if we want to change something, then an amendment has to be made to what is proposed.
Okay, so we won't vote on the 3 different, we'll have to make an amendment to change.
You make an amendment, we'll vote on the amendment, and then we'll vote on it as amended if it then goes that route. Yeah. Okay, d'autres questions, commentaires?
Mr. Mayor, if I may add, it's not on the resolution, it's on the bylaw. So that chart is added to the bylaw. So these will become the amendments.
Ouais, so faut qu'on, quand que le bylaw est séparé,
Mhm.
puis we'll,
Dans le bylaw.
sorry, not during the resolutions, during the bylaw itself. Okay, move on to the next item, item AA. CAO Semi-Annual Activity Report. The council receives report CAO 01-2019 dated February 19th, 2019. Monsieur Leduc.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I think many of the topics have been covered by my colleagues throughout their reports. I certainly second them in a lot of the projects, so my list seems to be short. But I'm sure my day is longer than that. But certainly, to commend the communications department, even though we were short-staffed, to come up with the electronic sign project and also the bus wrap with the assistance of the GoDev departments. Certainly put us up there more to showcase what we have to offer. And basically, the ongoing projects have been taking a lot of my time in the last half of the year, so we'll be reporting back on these activities more into the 6-month report.
Perfect, thank you very much, Mr. Leduc. Any questions for Mr. Leduc? No, we'll move on to the next item. Item AB, council members' pregnancy and or parental leave policy, report CAO 02/2019. The council received report CAO 02/2019 dated February 19, 2019, and approved the proposed bylaw for council's pregnancy and parental leave policy. Questions, comments, members of council? Councilor Sosi?
Just assuring you, there'll be no pregnancy leave for me.
Any other questions or comments? Monsieur Leduc, quelque chose à ajouter?
It's only about a 6-day obligation, and I'm happy to hear that. And certainly for this council or for future councils.
Thank you very much. Item 12, reports from an investigator or the ombudsman. That is the wording changed.
Mr. Mayor, that's a new addition from the procedural bylaw from
Last changes.
Yes, so
Okay,
it's there, but we don't have any.
at this point in time.
Yes.
Perfect. Item 13, notices of motion. Item A, notice motion, amend something previously adopted or rescind. Madame Kamene-Laflamme?
Yes. So I'll read the motion that was presented. That will be tabled, only read today, but will be tabled for next meeting. So moved by Councillor Cindy Sautier, seconded by Mayor Pierre Leroux. And the notice of motion was to amend something previously adopted or rescind. Whereas on Monday, February 4th, 2019, the notice of motion moved by Mayor Leroux and seconded by Councillor Ternowski, titled Capital Conversion Principles, was defeated. And whereas after further reflection, I would like to reconsider that notice of motion. And whereas section 15.15 of our procedural bylaw allows me to give notice to request its reconsideration, therefore be it resolved that I submit this request for consideration at our next meeting of council.
Merci, Madame Kamene-Laflamme. So that notice will come back at the next meeting. Conseiller Lorrain?
I have a procedural question about this.
Okay.
So a request for reconsideration comes in the form of a notice of motion to be dealt with at a subsequent meeting? It doesn't, a request for reconsideration doesn't come at the next meeting?
So
Cause that's what this is, like, there's no changes.
So the request itself, so for example, if at that point in time specifically, when the original motion was defeated, if somebody at the table had asked that I wanna reconsider it at the next meeting, then at that point, that notice would have been given and we would have dealt with it today. But because it wasn't done that way, now you have to give notice as per our procedural bylaw that you're giving notice today and it will be considered at the next meeting.
Okay, are there changes that were made to it? Cause it talks about changes or rescinding. So I'm just trying to understand what changed.
That's the
Oh, you-
title in the procedural bylaw, the
Yeah,
section.
that's the section. Amend something previously adopted or rescind.
Okay,
That's the notice of motion, that's the title of the notice of motion. It's a notice of motion to amend something previously adopted or rescinded.
okay, so all we're doing then is there's gonna be a request to reconsider the exact same motion, just so I'm clear.
Yeah, so the request will be at the next meeting.
Yes, and this will be under resolutions as per the procedural bylaw mentions
So, and
separately.
if this notice of motion is approved, then the original notice of motion is discussed at that meeting, correct?
Correct.
So if this notice of motion
Yeah,
is approved, automatically what the subject matter is discussed that night.
okay,
So if council decided, no, we don't wanna re-see it, then we don't re-see it and it's not an issue. If council decides at that point in time that they wanna see it again, then they deal with it right then and there. After they vote on the notice of motion to bring it back
on that night.
on that night.
Okay.
Councilor Sosi?
So I'm just verifying, so that's the March 4th meeting, not the special meeting,
It's the next meeting.
which would be March
Next.
4th, eh? So-
Yeah.
Okay, no.
Okay.
Move on to next item, is item 14, question period on meeting of the day. So if you have a question, please come up to the lectern and state your name and address for the record. I see nobody's really running up, so at this point in time, I'll assume there's no questions and we'll move on. Item 15, resolution, motion that council approve all recommendations listed on the agenda under item 11, reports from departments and council committee. So là, on va le mettre sur la table, and then we'll remove all the items. So we'll put this on the table first. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councilor Saucier, seconded by Conseiller Lorrain. And now we have the listed items to remove, Madame Camille Laflamme.
So the amendments that were requested earlier were for 11A, L, Q, T, W, and Z.
A, L, Q, T, W, and Z.
That's correct.
Conseiller Lorrain?
Yeah, just a clarification too, on the items, the code of conduct, because they were in the reports, there are no resolutions for those items, those are strictly on the bylaw side, and I've requested those to be removed as well.
Yes, just to confirm, there was no resolution because the report, like you said, at the other meeting before, had mentioned that it was to go ahead and to bring back the amendments, so that's what we brought. And at number 16A, the two bylaws are separate. So the motion is to approve the first one, and then the motion is to approve the second one. So there's two separate ones.
Under B, I've asked to separate out 3 of the bylaws as well to be considered separately.
Yes, so we'll have to move that one when we get to that one.
Okay, so I need a mover and a seconder for the amendment to remove these items, moved by Councilor Lorrain, seconded by Conseiller Brisson. All in favor to remove these items? Okay, so now I'll call for the vote, accept all these items. So all those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. So now we will go one by one. So item A was the zoning bylaw amendment for the property known as owner 2558147 Ontario Inc. and property known as concession 2, part of lot 11 on 50R 8431, part 1 and parts 2 and 3. So I need a mover and a seconder to put it on the table. Moved by Councilor Tonoski, seconded by Councilor Saucier. It is on the table. Questions, comments? Councilor Lorrain.
I'm gonna make an amendment request to approve item number 2, which is item number, 2, to allow for the 3-meter roadway.
Okay, we have,
I'll move that.
moved by Councilor Lorrain. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councilor Tonoski. So now questions, comments on this recommendation. Madame Tremblay, can you maybe give us some logic why we changed our zoning bylaws so that it went from 3 meters to 4 meters? As you mentioned earlier, we changed it for a reason, so I just wanna make sure that we're aware of the reason.
Yeah, so in the past, we had it was a 3-meter wide road when it was a one-way, and there was major problems for emergency vehicle and on a case-by-case, like maybe not in this situation, but there was a problem that was seen by the emergency vehicle that it could be wider because they had problems to access back of the buildings, or even when there was a not well identified a one-way, there was cars coming on the other side. So just in order to avoid all those problems, and we obviously look at what other municipalities are doing, and the 3-meter was not existing anywhere. So that's why the 4-meter was suggested by many departments to avoid those situations.
Okay. Want to say that?
Yeah, however, in this site-specific case, there were no comments regarding that from fire protective services, because they in their mind they will not access that route to get to the back. So it's not gonna affect them for this site-specific project. So which is why I believe the planning committee had endorsed that recommendation to move forward with it.
Madame Tremblay?
There's also, and it's, they had comments, so we, with the fire department, we consulted them as we do usually for site plans. So there is it's not actually, it's a case-by-case situation, but we think about snow removal as well. So when, let's say for example, in this period of time for the year, when there's a lot of snow, the snow needs to be removed. So if it's a short, like not as wide as 4 to compare to 3, then the snow goes to the neighbor. So it's to avoid all those situations that it gives more room for having 4 meters compared to 3 meter. So it's just a question of the visibility of the site. So for us, there's a reason why we change it from 3 to 4, and we wanna keep our mindset on the 4 in the sense that it's not a wide property, so it's in order to avoid all those situations that would become a problem with the neighbor if.
Right, and when we speak of emergency vehicles, well, I can understand in the case of a fire, but if there's a medical emergency, you know, trucks, somebody calls, says, I need, you know, fire, I need ambulance and this and that, you know, I'm at the apartment in the back, you know, from a medical standpoint, I'm not sure if we would just park out front and run all the way to the back. If that's the case, chief, if it's,
An ambulance, for example, doesn't need to be a fire truck.
Yeah, actually, even for, if there's a fire, we'd be parking at the front, we would never station a truck back there in case we got caught. We'd be running hoses to the back, so trucks would always be parked at the front.
for a fire, but what about medical calls?
Ambulance, I would think you'd be still at the front too, an ambulance would get back there. I mean, it's wide
It'd be
enough.
no issue.
That's right, an ambulance is the same as a regular vehicle, because they still get around to the back, so that wouldn't be an issue. Yeah, well, for one of our smaller trucks also.
Counselor Sosi?
I was just curious, is this a shared, gonna be a shared laneway with the vet? No? It's gonna be a separate one?
So it's a separate on one side and separate on the other side. So it's one way, one direction, out the other direction.
Okay, and so that won't, be causing problems for the users of the veterinary clinic? Because it's very limited parking.
Yeah. So in the report, we've mentioned that as part of the solution, we've met with the vet clinic, so they were not interested of sharing any laneway or, so what's existing on the vet, it will remain the way it is, and then they're responsible for their own circulation on their new site.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Members, council, Trustee Daray? No? Madame Tremblay?
Just a relevant question, if that's council decision, for us to go back to 3 meter, maybe it would be an option in the zoning bylaw. So if council wants to look at this site and go 4 to 3, then maybe revisiting the zoning bylaw would be an option to go back to 3 meter and forget the reason why we reduced it from 4 to 3 to 4.
Counselor Sosi, then conseiller.
Well, I wouldn't think that would be a good idea because, you know, I could see a case by case. You know, and like you say, for snow plows and things like that, it's just not gonna, be safe.
Okay, conseiller Larin?
One of the main reasons why I'm in favor of this one is because of when they started the discussions. I know when they put it in the application, they understood that was going on, but that was what it was at that time, when they started the discussions on this. And I know there's been delays over a period of time. I understand things have changed a bit, but considering the fact that fire services wouldn't have an issue, they would always be at the front, and ambulance services can get to the back, I don't see why we would not make this adjustment. It would have come on its own, would be a minor variance, right, request to put
The
into
result
council.
will be the same.
Madame Tremblay?
I understand that the process would be different, but the result is still the same. We still have a laneway at 3 meter compared to 4.
Correct.
And the reasoning why we've done it from the get-go is that because we had comments that it caused problems. So our recommendation is to avoid those problems down the road. So I guess that I understand that it's a case-by-case basis, but there's a reasoning why it was done from the beginning.
But then my last question, Mr. Mayor, or my last comment, if we look at the report for this specific item, there's nothing in there that from other departments that says decline this. So, other than yours, but in terms of, you talk about the United Counties, you talk about the other bodies that would review it, comments aren't there to say no.
But let's be
You're making them now, and you're stating that's why we changed the bylaw, then I would suggest that when that goes around, that these departments make those comments. You're making them now, based on the fact that we made the change to the actual zoning bylaw. And there's and I understand the reasons why, but in the report, those comments aren't there. And we've circulated that document for comments.
Just to be clear, when we circulate a document for comments, they're commenting on their area of expertise. They're not going to comment on something that they have no relation to. For example, the United Counties will comment on the entranceway because it's on a county road, but they're not going to go make comments on other areas of that plan because it has no reference to them whatsoever.
Right.
Madame Tremblay?
It's the Township of Russell zoning bylaw, so it's council's decision to change the provision in the zoning bylaw. So like Mr. Mayor said, it's not the county's responsibility to make comment about the application of our zoning bylaw.
Okay,
So-
so, Monsieur Bourgon's department,
Yeah,
what were their comments in the report? Was there a comment there about snow plowing, and
but
was
they
there
don't snowplow the private
Okay,
entrances.
but you just made the comment earlier about the hills, the snow and stuff like snow removal and whatnot.
On private property. Let's be clear.
Which is their responsibility of each owner to snowplow their property, right? So if there's a fence to be installed and then the snow is what we're seeing now, the problem from the snow will not help the situation. So that's why our comment is not to reduce that yard, that aisle from 3 to 4,
Yeah.
or 4 to 3, sorry.
I think we've had a lot of
Yeah,
discussion on the
it's-
item.
And at the end of the day, it's council decision, but my comment is that if that's where we're gonna go every time that we have a reduction from 3 to 4, I'll just put it back to 3, the way it was before.
Okay. So we have a mover and a seconder on this item, so I'll call for the vote on the amendment. All those in favor? All those opposed? So, carried. So,
The bylaw was read.
the bylaw was right, okay. So now, that was on the amendment, so now we need to approve the resolution as amended. So all those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which was item L, which is the 2019 budget. So I need a mover and a seconder to put on the table. Moved by Conseiller Lorraine, seconded by Councillor Tonosky. The budget is on the table, so I need a mover, or questions, comments, amendments. Councillor Lorraine.
Yeah, I'll just make the comment, I think we discussed it earlier. You straw polled council at that time on the items that I had discussed. So if somebody wants to make amendments to the bylaw, so be it. I can't support the bylaw, I can't support the budget as drafted right now. I mean, I do thank staff for all the work that they did in it, all the time and effort of council. However, there's a piece of that budget that I just can't get comfortable with. There's probably 95% that I am comfortable with, but unfortunately, this piece of these items I can't get comfortable with, therefore I will be voting against the budget. So there's no use me sitting here and listing off 5 or 6 more amendments to it that I already know you guys are not gonna be in favor of. So if somebody else wants to put amendments on, I'll listen to those, but I have no intention of voting in favor of the budget tonight.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Councillor Associate?
So, did you not just wanna add that amendment about the, ice rental and what the money's going for to make it feasible then?
No, Councillor Lorraine just said if somebody wants to make a suggestion, then you can put something on the table, but on that item as mentioned, there'll be something coming back from the administration on that specific area.
I'll leave it like that.
Okay, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, so in that case, then it's, I'll call for a registered vote, and I'll lift my hand for. So all those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, So the budget is carried. Congratulations, Monsieur Leduc and the team, you have direction and go ahead. Item Q, amendment to traffic and parking bylaw to amend the no stopping signs on the east side of Concession Street, each side of the entrance Russell Library to reflect school hours. So I need a mover and a seconder to put on the table, moved by Councillor Tonoski, seconded by Conseiller Brisson. Questions, comments? Councillor Lorrain.
Amendments. I would like to have a 5-meter buffer, so over and above the one, was it the 1.5 or whatnot? That would be there now, so I would add an additional 3.5 to make it a full 5-meter buffer on both the north and south side of the library entrance.
Right? How would you like to word that?
Please add a 5-meter, a total of 5
Okay,
meter.
so we
buffer.
have a resolution in front of us, so we have to amend the resolution that's in front of us. So the council receives report PIC 08-2019 dated February 19, 2019, and rejects as recommended in this report the proposed bylaw amendment to traffic and parking bylaw 31/2004 to amend no stopping area on each side of the library entrance on concession streets.
And to approve a 5-meter buffer, a total of 5-meter buffer on the north and south side of the entrance to the library.
Question? Conseiller Bernowski?
So if the current bylaw for any driveway is 3 meters on either side, it's for residential.
1.5.
Oh, okay.
For road, it's
At an intersection, it would be
At an
3.
intersection, okay.
2. No.
So would it be okay to put it at 3 to keep that consistency? Councilor Lorraine, any thoughts on that? Like the difference between 3 and 5? I'm not too particular other than simplicity of keeping like consistency with some of the existing rules. Is there a?
As long as, I'll be fine with going to the 3 as long as we get 2 signs up that says no parking that
From
way.
this point in.
From this point in, then, because right now they go right to the edge, and
Madame
it's
Bourgeois?
extremely dangerous.
Yes, as soon as we implement new, no stopping or no parking, we have to identify them, so.
So-
3 to 5, it doesn't matter.
Question de clarification, Madame Camille Laflamme. If we were to approve, actually, I'll take a step back. Il y a pas le bylaw comme tel, il est pas dans nos bylaws comme c'est là, right?
Mhm.
It is in our bylaws?
Yes.
In what sense? What are we approving if this is to reject?
The bylaw says 28 meters south of the entrance to 1053 Concession Street, and then 36 meters north of the entrance to 1053 Concession Street.
But what are we changing? I guess I'm just trying, I'm totally off and I'm missing something. But is there are we changing something that's currently not in practice?
No, we're adding, it's a brand new,
Okay, so now,
So if we were to approve this resolution to reject, then the bylaw would come out.
no,
Right.
no, that's not where I'm going with this. I'm going, right now, our bus is parking there right now.
Yes.
yes.
Yes. So what change to the bylaw are we making that it requires the bylaw to be changed?
We're adding, in our traffic and parking bylaw, Schedule 2 deals with stopping, where stopping is prohibited, so we have to list the areas in the municipality where stopping is prohibited. So I have to add that section of road, so be it 3.
Oui, mais je comprends, mais dans le, maybe I'm totally missing it, but in the package we have currently, does this resolution have a bylaw attached that we're voting on? No. Because your recommendation was not to change it, so the bylaw isn't in our package. Is that correct? Madame Camille Laflamme?
It is in the package,
So it's in the
but it's not mentioned in the recommendation. You're correct on that one.
Okay, so in that case, we're lucky the sense it's in the package, because we can make changes to it because it is in the package. But in this case, if we were to accept this recommendation here, we still have the opportunity to change the bylaw under the bylaw section.
Yes, and I reread the resolution, sorry, and it says the proposed bylaw amendment, so it is in the recommendation and it is under the bylaw as well. So you can just amend the bylaw itself later on.
As
if it's-
opposed to making,
Reject.
yeah, so if we accept this, then we can make changes to the bylaw itself.
If you put it as a separate item, yes.
Okay.
So we have to accept it, to go to.
So we accept the rejection, and then we make the changes in the bylaw.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Well, maybe the changes you accept them.
No, see, the council receives report dated February 19th and rejects, as recommended in this report, the proposed bylaw amendments to the traffic and parking. So you had proposed something originally,
Which was the 28 and the 36.
6, right? And so this resolution is saying that we're rejecting that.
Right.
But we have the bylaw in our section, therefore we could make a change to the bylaw at that point in time.
So I make the recommendation then for amendment.
Of 3 meters as
Okay.
opposed to during.
Can we pull that bylaw out then?
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was,
Yes.
it threw me off.
It's,
Now, I guess the question, the straw poll of council then is it 3 or 5?
Like we-
So I think Madame's gonna.
I think she wrote 5 already, but
I just did three, it's up to you if you want four.
Yeah.
I'll personally, I'll be fine with 3.
Yeah, we'll see.
So we'll make the amendment at that point in time. Okay.
I would've liked 5, but.
You can make an amendment again at
No,
that
it's
point.
okay.
So,
So full
Let's make a
acceptation.
whole bunch.
so Q, now we're gonna vote on Q.
Mhm. Which is. to-
and just to confirm, Mr. Mayor, this was already a separate item requested by Councillor Lauren.
For the bylaw itself?
Yes.
Okay, so Q, all those in favor of Q? All those opposed? So we're rejecting what's proposed in this report.
Just so it's clear, I'm agreeing to approve the rejection because we're gonna change it in the bylaw.
To differently than that was written. Yeah,
Alright.
okay.
So for the amendment, I had Councillor Lorrain as mover.
Seconder, Conseiller Brisson. Okay. Next, we're at item T, which is the community grants. So I need a mover and a seconder, moved by Conseiller Lorrain, seconded by Councillor Saucier. Questions, comments, amendments? Councillor Saucier.
Okay, well, I was going to propose that we approve, 6 through to 10. I guess I still would want some clarification on number 7, because if we're totally not doing any religious organizations, then, I guess we need to
No,
stick
but,
to
So-
but nation
Oh,
is not.
oh, wait, so let's start off. You're making it from 6 to 10
to approve.
to approve at this point in time?
Yes.
So I need your mover by Councillor
Yeah.
Saucier, seconded by Conseiller Lorrain. Questions in regards to the clarification for the Masons? As Councillor Lorrain stated in the past, it was more monetary. I don't think we ever had a situation where it was a hall request for a
An
religious.
They're just trying to raise funds.
Actually, you know what, if I remember well, there was, there's been a few events where we've given the hall for free to the church and that kind of stuff. Madame Vital?
Thank you, Mr. Members of Council. I can't recall if we gave them the hall. I would really have to confirm this, but I do remember they made a request for that.
And I've got 99% in my head that we did approve
I think so.
for that fundraiser. Okay, Conseiller Brisson.
For myself, there's also like 8 that I'm doubting. I have personal, definitely not 5, but 8 I'm also, because it's for their organization, just the rolling of it, it's not for any renovation, it's not for helping other kids. if I understand properly, it's just for the rolling as if, and it's just like if the
Operation.
Yeah.
operational cost, so that part I have a bit more problem, as if the Emblem à Poise d'Embrun viendrait pour de l'argent, I have more problem with it than having to repair a building or a thing like that. So for myself, I would prefer the 5 and 8 to be removed and accept the others.
So right now on the table, we have Councillor Saucier recommending to go from 6 to 10. Councillor Brisson's asking about number 8. Do you still want to include number 8?
Yes, if I could just comment on that, it's unfortunate that they put administrative, purposes in the latter, because I know, this is, the Covenant, they do a lot of community work, outreach, they do,
Within Russell Township?
yeah, and work for the homeless, and, also, but I know they also have a school in Africa, and my understanding was that the event that evening was going to be to raise funds for the school and for the school children, that they need supplies and what have you. But, anyway, I'm still in favor of that one.
Okay. So we have change 6 to 10 to approve instead of to refuse. We have that on the table, so I'll ask all those in,
I didn't have a seconder for that one.
so it was moved by Councillor Saucier, seconded by Conseiller Lorrain.
Thank you.
And now, so, Monsieur Leduc?
I have to ask this question, Mr. Mayor, please
Shoot.
pardon my curiosity. We're setting some precedents right now, and it's okay, it's your issue to do so. My curiosity is, before we were giving them our halls to run these trivia nights, where were they run, and were they given those halls for free, or were they getting any freebies anywhere to support this?
So they were being done at the Russell House, which was the bar, the pub. So yes, they were getting free use of the hall, because it was bringing in business for the pub. You know, it was a community activity and the pub was making money. That's why when this first discussion started, I saw the opportunity that if we ran the bar at these events, then we would be recouping money. But we haven't gone in that direction to put the liquor license in there permanently where the administration could be in charge of the bar full-time, because of the scenario where people like to rent the hall and do it themselves on occasion. So originally when this first started, that's why I saw the opportunity of seeing this as, even though we're giving the hall away, we were generating funds from the bar revenue if we chose to do it, but we haven't gone in that direction. So that's where, Monsieur Leduc?
So I could also suggest some considerations be given to maybe half the fee of free halls or reduced rates, like we do for other associations or groups. I mean, they're for associations outside of township. I know there are people using them, that's fine. But again, in other areas we subsidize half of it or subsidize portion of those fees. So I'm just suggesting to the council to have some of that thought in that process whenever we make a decision.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leduc. I'll go back to, we should have a contract in place with them because they're going to be using this hall and that could be part of the contract. Whereas when it's not a local event, that, you know, we limit you to 1 or 2 free uses of the hall for an exterior event. Every other exterior event has to be paid full price or whatever the case is. Councillor Saucier, Conseiller Lorrain.
And I was gonna suggest maybe you need to look at the bar issue again, because, right now, there's almost 1 trivia night a month, and they're always, sold out. So it's very well attended, it's never not well attended, so it might be, something to reconsider for, the township to look at the bar option. But, you know, again, this is Connie Johnson giving up her time freely and putting a lot of work into it, and she, you know, purchased all the, tablecloths and what have you for the event, and tries to make it look a little more pub-like. So, people look forward to it. It's a nice activity in the winter, gets people out, gets people together, and makes, Russell a great place to live.
Conseiller Lorrain.
I have no problem with the requests that are being made, and I agree that, here you go, another agreement with you. That, I think we should direct, administration to work with the official Russell Trivia Night organizer, whoever, whatever that is, and get something in place. And, maybe Mr. Lidjick's, comment is absolutely valid in that circumstance where, in the circumstance where the policy states that we would have to reject the request, that you be allowed a 50% reduction in the fee, and they would have to pay the other 50%. I think that's a very reasonable request to be made, but I think that we're gonna see more and more of these requests. I mean, we've seen a whole bunch last year, we're seeing a whole bunch this year. I think we're gonna continue to see more of these types of requests, and I think under the Russell Trivia Night banner, I think it's time that we make that next step, so I think we need to give direction as well on that.
Okay, so at this point in time, the amendment on the table is to approve 6 to 10. We've had a lot of discussion. I'll ask for a vote on the amendment itself. All those in favor? All those opposed? So the amendment is carried to approve from 6 to 10, and leave 5 as the only one that's being refused. Now, all those in favor as amended? All those opposed? So carried. So that was item T. Item W. Which was the council code of conduct and council staff relations policy. I need a mover and a seconder to put that on the table. Moved by Councillor Tonosky, seconded by Conseiller Brisson. Questions, comments? Yeah. Councillor Lorrain.
I'll just make the comment that I've seen again through council's comments previously that they're not willing to make any changes to the items, so I'm gonna respectfully request a registered vote, and unfortunately I can't support the code of conduct and the staff council policy as drafted.
Okay, thank you very much, Conseiller Lorrain. So, we have a call for a registered vote. Any other questions, Karen? No? Conseiller Saucier? Conseiller?
I kind of agree with that, just knowing what, the reprimand is and what what the procedure is and who's responsible. Mic isn't on, there we go. So if that could just be clarified, and then I would be, happy to vote on it.
Sorry, what exactly you're looking for?
Well, it was, the point that Councillor Loran, brought up about the reprimand and what the procedure is and who's,
The third party comment?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
As it's written right now, there is no third party, Monsieur Leduc. It's essentially goes through council back to the integrity commissioner.
So, Madam Conseil, I'd have to verify this, but I don't think you can even delegate that authority to a third party. Council is the ultimate decision power, so I don't know who you can delegate powers to on that particular case regarding council members.
Hopefully, we never find ourselves in this situation. So do we have a mover for an amendment on this policy, or? No? So then, if there's no questions, we're ready to vote on it as presented. Any other questions? No? No? All those in favor? Oh, registered vote, yes, sorry. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. That was W. And there was one more.
Z.
Z. Amendments to the procedural bylaws. So I need a mover and a seconder to put it on the table. Moved by Conseiller Lorrain, seconded by Conseiller Brisson. Questions, comments, amendments? Conseiller Brisson.
Là, c'est juste pour clarifier, si on voulait changer des sections, mais pas toutes.
So il faut que tu fasses un amendement sur qu'est-ce que tu veux changer. Comme c'est là, what's proposed, Madame Camille Laflamme, is what's in the actual bylaw change. C'est ça?
Correct, so you can go the same way as you did for the other one, if you're okay to approve and to then discuss the bylaw by itself, then the amendment can be there, because it only says to receive the chart and to proceed with the amendments, but if you know exactly, we can add it there too.
Ça fait que c'est quoi la meilleure manière? C'est-tu là ou au bylaw?
If you agree to amend the bylaw, this is okay,
Yeah.
and then you amend the bylaw.
So, Conseiller Tenasky?
So I just wanna clarify, cause if we accept with the changes and then vote to amend, and then the vote doesn't pass, then we've already accepted.
Did this,
both of these.
correct.
Yeah, so it's not the same thing.
So, if you want, if there's changes, member of council wants to what's proposed, now is the time to make that change, that proposal. Conseiller Brisson?
Je vais faire l'amendement que dans la proposition, on enlève la section pour la période de questions générales.
Okay, so we have Conseiller Brisson is amending to remove question period general section, so.
3.1.
Yeah, 10.3.1.1.2. So we have a mover, do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Tenasky, so that is on the table to remove the general question period. Questions, comments on that item?
Just need to register voting.
Yep. So, question? Okay, so we'll vote on that amendment itself, so all those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. So that section is removed, and now we will vote on it as amended. All those in favor? All those opposed?
Well, I'm in favor of the rest, right?
Okay, yeah.
So,
So it's already passed.
Yes.
The other piece already passed,
it's
so.
carried. That was item Z. So c'est ça, fini pour les résolutions? Okay, now we move on to bylaws. So, motion that council approves bylaw 2019-021 inclusively for second and third read as listed on the agenda, which was the council code of conduct. Oops. Go ahead, c'est séparé?
Oh, no, they're together,
Wait, 21 and 22.
yes.
So, just to be clear, so motion that council approves bylaw 2019-021 and 2019-022?
Yes.
Ou tu veux qu'on vote, on peut voter séparément, c'est pas différent?
The French one has both, so it was
Okay.
just missing in the English.
Okay, so the French version has both, we'll be voting on both. Okay, need a mover and a seconder to put on the table, moved by Councillor Tenasky, seconded by Conseiller Brisson. Questions, comments?
Registered vote?
Registered vote. So we're voting on 2019-021, the code of conduct for members of council, and number 22, for the council staff relations policy. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Now, under section bylaws, item B, motion that council approves bylaw 2019-009 and 2019-024 to 2019-034 inclusively for first, second, and third reading as listed on the agenda. We will put it on the table first, and then we'll separate the ones that we want. So moved by Conseiller Lorrain, seconded by Conseiller Brisson. C'est à quel inavant qu'on enlevait, madame?
I believe it's 30, 32, and 34.
Yes, and I'm not sure if you wanna add the one about 024, the zoning bylaw?
Yeah.
So 24,
30, 32, and 34.
so just to clarify, we'll be voting for the part lock control standard, the interim tax levies, the application for Ontario infrastructure, the second Ontario infrastructure, the bylaw for the sign bylaw, the tree canopy, and the pregnancy and parental leave policy. These are all the ones we're voting for at this point in time. So, all those in favor? All those opposed? Carried, so all those are, well, I'll say now we'll do them individually.
We'll need a mover seconder for the amendment.
To separate them all?
Well, I didn't have a mover seconder for 24, 30, 32, and 34.
Non, ceux-là, on va les faire individuellement.
Non, c'est pas ça.
Oh, pour les enlever, tu parles?
To have them separate out.
Separate, so
I
council,
moved it.
yeah, moved by Conseiller Lorrain, seconded by Conseiller Brisson.
So it's the same as the main motion?
Right, So all those in favor to remove those amendments, or not the amendments, but those items.
Mhm.
So we'll now vote on them separately. So 2019-24, I need a mover and a seconder to put on the table. Moved by Conseiller Lorrain, seconded by 24, yeah, that'll be the next, pharmacy in Russell. Seconded by Councillor Tonoski. Questions, comments, amendments? Councillor Lorrain?
I think I have to make the same amendment here, right? Or do I, this is for the 3 to 4, the 4 meters to 3 meters, right? So I have to make that amendment here as well, or does the resolution do that?
I believe Ms. Tremblay already has the bylaw for that one, right?
Yeah.
Which has this reflection in it, so,
Okay,
so if you wanna,
now it's
so it's already been amended, so now we're just approving it as resolved to,
as amended,
as
In the
amended in the
resolution.
resolution.
yes.
Okay.
4 meter wide.
Yeah, what's that?
She's trying to slide it in there.
So we've replaced the one that's in here with the new one, now we're voting on that new one, which is 4 meters. We don't have to make, 3 meters, we don't have to, we don't have to make an amendment, is what I'm saying.
No amended required, say some of them can.
Perfect.
Well, we already have it, so we'll just note it that it's
Okay.
the amendment.
Okay, so the amended version.
Perfect.
So
Yes.
all those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. 24 is done. So now we go to 2019-30, being a bylaw to amend the traffic and parking bylaw 31/2004 to amend no stopping signs on the east side of Concession Street. Each side of the entrance to the Russell Public reflects school hours. Need a mover and a seconder to put on the table. Moved by Conseiller Lorrain, seconded by Conseiller Brisson. And now's the time to make an amendment for this one.
All right, I'm gonna suggest that we go to a total of 3 meters, parking restriction on the north and south side of the entrance
To the
and
library.
exit to the library.
Okay, so moved by Conseiller Lorrain, seconded Councillor Tarnowski. Discussion on this amendment? No? All those in favor of the amendment? All those opposed? Carried. Now we vote on the bylaw as amended. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. 2019-32 being a bylaw to amend procedural bylaw 2019-020. Need a mover and a seconder to put on the table. Moved by Councillor Tonoski, seconded by Conseiller Brisson. So now it's on the table. Now this is, we made the changes in the resolution, Madame Camille Laflamme, so it's as the changes that were just approved, correct?
Take it to register vote.
Yep.
Thank you.
So registered vote, so all those in favor,
This is the,
procedural bylaw.
So do you not have a question?
oh, great.
All those opposed? Okay. So that's carried. Now we go to 2019-34 bylaw to establish user fees for 2019. Need a mover and a seconder put on the table. Moved by Conseiller Lorrain, seconded by Councillor Tonoski. Questions, comments, amendments? Councillor Lorrain.
I'm just gonna make the same comment I did during the budget, because we resolved to this already. Now we're just approving the bylaw, that, there wasn't gonna be any recommended changes, so I'm just gonna vote against the user fee bylaw on a registered vote, please.
Registered vote.
Yes, please.
All those in favor?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, who was the mover and seconder on that one?
I think I moved.
Moved. And Mike
Councilor
seconded.
Tarnowski.
So all those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Bylaws are done. The new procedural bylaws throw me off because the numbers are off what I'm used to.
Mm-hmm.
17, new business reports, we have none. 18, other business presented by council members, we have none. 19, public consultations and hearings, we have none. Conseiller Lorrain?
Yeah, just under 18 real quick, it's not a big thing, but can we announce the capital charges meeting? Just so that it's out in the public? Is that, I believe the date's been set?
C'est-tu confirmé?
Yes, that's confirmed for Thursday, March 7th at 6 p.m.
Okay,
In this room?
Yes.
And the public notice will go out as normal and.
And it's already on the website, I believe with the date,
Okay.
yes, and would just be subject for now.
Okay,
The agenda will follow.
parfait.
Oh, and then the heritage,
Heritage study is tomorrow evening,
From 6 to 8.
6 to 8 p.m. Okay, perfect. 20, closed session, we have none. 21, confirming bylaw, that bylaw 2019-035
035.
being a bylaw confirming the proceedings of Council of the Corporation of Township of Russell at its regular council meeting held on February 19th, 2019. Be read a first, second, and third time and passed. Need a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councilor Lorrain, seconded by Councilor Buisson. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Our next meeting will be Monday, March 4th, 2019, regular public meeting of council, and we are adjourned at 9:18 p.m. Thank you very much, everyone.
We have a break.
Okay, merci.
Did you need to?